Tonight's guest is one of the most prominent voices in the veteran creator space. He wasn't always a voice, though. At one time, the primary means for reaching you about veteran benefits and wellness was what I call silent protest, and most of you are probably more familiar with his work than you think.
One veteran in particular is bringing his community together with some funny signs and inside jokes.
My goal is really just to make people laugh more and hurt themselves less.
I'd like to welcome to the Funker530 show, and I hope you will too, my friend, the veteran with the sign, and the host of the After Action podcast, Zachary Bell. First of all, thanks for coming, to be honest with you. We've been trying to set this up now for how long?
Easy, at least a year.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of range days ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the last ones.
The last of the range days.
Yeah. It's kind of an end of an era.
Yeah. An era almost feels like that still, with such a strong word, the word era. I don't think that truly does it justice because that is kind of the OG, right? We're talking about Matt. We're talking about Demo Ranch.
Yeah, and like it's hard to quantify like how much of an impact he's really had on the gun community in general, because like people have truly forgotten like where he started, in my opinion. Like the fact that he was just a guy in vet school, you know, wanting to like take care of horses and stuff. And he's like, I don't know, I think I'll start filming myself shooting random guns. And then it turned into like this crazy empire to where he's able to do all the stuff he wanted and get all the goals he ever wanted to accomplished. And then he's at a point where he's like, I'm ready to sail off into the sunset.
I mean,
when everyone's like, are you sure? Or like, are you sure?
Well, you can't hate having the opportunity to do that either. After the amount of work and time and energy that the man's put into things, people don't see behind the scenes. And that if that applies to, you know, just folks like you and I, imagine him, right? That's the way I try to explain it to people.
Yeah, he has multiple, I don't know where he's at now. He had multiple channels with millions of subscribers. And like on paper, it's like, don't ever give that up. But, you know, I think the goal of anything should be to get what you want and then stop. Like whatever your goal is. His goal was to spend more time with his family, and I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing me and him ever talked about was how he just wanted to spend more time with his family. Me, him, and Donut, we were down at the ranch. He took us down to the Guadalupe River. And we just talked, like just a bunch of dads.
Isn't there a photo of the three of you sitting in the river, just dudes with their shirts off, being dudes?
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite photos because like he's like, "What's up?" And like you know, I'd come to many range days. We'd gotten to know each other, but like literally the three of us were just dudes in the river.
Mm-hmm.
You know, his kids were on a rope swing behind us, and like we were just sitting down there, just enjoying the moment. And I was like, "What a crazy life!" And he was just telling me how he just wanted to focus on his family and talked about how important it was to be a father. And then three of us just talked about that and just sat there and I don't know, simple, but like perfect, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that. Speaking of origins, though, yours, right? So we're here to talk about you today. I feel like, first of all, just to close that thought out, Matt has been extremely kind to me, to the Funker530 team. We used to run our merch through Bunker Branding. He's always given us the time of day to have a conversation and sit down. And one of the most genuine people in the world. Yeah. Right. And I wish him the absolute best in literally anything that he ever chooses to do.
Same.
Like, honestly, I don't care if he chooses to pickle cucumbers for a living. I hope he becomes the best cucumber pickle maker that there ever could be.
He would.
He honestly would. And they would be the best pickles.
Yeah. I'm just really in my feelings about it because I was there for his retirement video. And so I was there for the last video he put on his channel. And like just to see like where he came starting off to like the point where he's at the end of it. And it was just crazy.
Yeah.
To be there at the period of the end of the sentence at his demolition ranch.
So for you though, going from being a Marine to what I label as silent protest, everybody knows the veteran with a sign. But I want to talk about who Zach is today. And I know that's an uncomfortable topic for you.
It's all right.
But it's something that you're kind of diving into with the After Action podcast that you have that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But talk to me about joining the Marines. Talk to me about high school, the decision to do that.
I mean, thank you for having me. I just had to think about it for a second. No, I mean, like, if I go back to everything, like where it all began, like what made me want to serve, what made me want to be a part of the military community, I honestly think it was like these like flash moments of seeing the first Gulf War, Desert Storm happening, and then seeing like chocolate chip camis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why it's one of my favorites. It's like one of the first ones I remember seeing, and then followed closely by Woodline, and then like it all kind of imprints after that. But I don't know. I just kind of grew up wanting to see that. My uncle joined the Marines. He was in the first Gulf War and went on to become a doctor and a surgeon. The Marine Corps changed his life, and I saw that firsthand, growing up very, very poor, poor working class, paycheck to paycheck for a long time with my mother and my father till they got divorced when I was 3 because he was an alcoholic and very abusive.
When you say abusive, do you mean physically abusive?
Physically,
verbally,
mentally, verbally.
All of it.
Yeah, like my first real memory is like him throwing cups in our house, which was a trailer. And like, just like how violent he was all the time until my uncle actually came once and pulled us out of the house. One of my uncles did. And like just carried me to my grandfather's, and we lived there for a year or two until my mom got us an apartment, me and my brother in Memphis. And so like my childhood was just like chaotic, and it was a lot like that. And to offset his child support, he would pick us up every weekend or so, or he would do it in batches. Like he had custody agreements, supposed to see us every weekend, and then some months it was like 2 weekends a month, some months it was 3, some months it was 4, just whatever. It didn't really matter. Some it was none. Like we would go whole years and we'd never see him.
Do you think some of that childhood trauma informs what you do today?
Oh, it's everything. Everything that all of the insecurities, all of the, what am I looking for? All of the things that made me want to be a hero, like come from not having any heroes. I still don't think I have any to this day, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
Like there was no one that I looked up to and no one that made me feel safe for the most part. And there were people that would be like in my life for a little bit, but like, they had their own problems and all things they were going through. And, my mom was trying to do the best she could, but she was a single mother and all these different things. And so like me and my brother were real latchkey kids. So I like had to like grow up really, really quickly and take care of both of us, like way too young of an age.
Did you find that support structure that you had been missing in your leadership in the Marines when you got there?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I found people I could count on more than anything else. But like, I didn't know, 9/11 had such like a big impact on my life. I wasn't really sure like why I felt that call to service. But I did. I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself, and I wanted to be a part of people that I felt had to be held accountable, if that makes sense. Like, I have this burning desire for justice, and I hate it. Like, someone does something wrong publicly, I'm always like, they should be corrected. Like, excuse me, like someone parks in a handicap spot, doesn't have a handicap sticker. Like, my first thought is slash their tires. It's not ideal, but like, if they do that, like, what do they do when they're not around? Like, I just see
that's a little bit mountains and molehills, but yeah, I think I understand what you mean.
I'm just trying to give an example of like,
I get it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no consequences oftentimes for people's behavior, and I feel like that spirals to a point of like online culture where like it used to be like Ronnie sucks, and then if I said that to you in person, there could be consequences for that, right?
Sure.
But the removal of consequences has escalated the level of people pushing the limits and doing things that they shouldn't do. This is all my opinion, right?
Okay.
And I think it's led to like trolling online culture, people saying like hurtful, hateful things without any real physical in their face consequences.
Certainly.
Or sometimes the consequences are way too much, and that's where cancel culture comes in, right? So it's like kind of this weird double-edged sword.
Yeah, so there's this barrier of expertise that used to be necessary. So I think I've talked about something like this before, where there's a barrier of expertise that used to be necessary for someone to call somebody out for things, right? Or a barrier of a burden of proof, if you will. It's almost as though the inference alone is enough now to plant the seeds of doubt, sow the seeds of doubt in somebody's, talking point or in their knowledge base, right? And I think, to be honest with you, I think, a lot of the alternative anonymous media news accounts contribute to that quite a bit. That's probably a topic for another day, something I've covered before, but accountability is an interesting one that you bring up, though, because I don't think that there's enough of it right now.
Well, there wasn't enough of it in my life personally. And it just felt like everyone got away with everything. And they did. Like my grandfather didn't make my father be better. And ultimately I know it's because nobody really had the tools to do that. But at the time you're a child and you just want to feel safe. You want to feel secure. You don't want to feel like everything is kind of like wobbly. And that was just how I felt like my whole life until I enlisted. And there's other things too that I didn't really have a real personality for a long time because I wasn't really in a place to develop one. I switched schools every year until I was in 11th grade.
Every year?
Every year, yep.
Is it different states or just?
No, just different schools in the county. So my mom would, I don't know how she did it, but she kept getting us rezoned to different schools to what were better schools, or she thought were better schools than where we were at because we didn't live in the best part of town. And I don't know how she did it, but she did it. And that happened until I ended up having to go to a private school to graduate high school, a very, very small independent Baptist private school with 28 people. I was number 28 in the graduating class.
And when was this? When did you graduate high school?
06.
2006. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting old, brother.
Yeah.
I ran across a cat that was 21 and he was born in 2004. Dog.
Yeah. I think I just got my license. Yeah. We are getting old, but you look incredible and I look like I've been staring at the sun my whole life.
What are you talking about? We had a great workout earlier. You crushed it.
I was just trying to keep up.
You crushed it. We did a bunch of bag work. We went outside and shot some. What'd you think of that 45-70?
I think I need one.
There's something different about a smooth lever gun. And I shot lever guns growing up, but getting the chance to own one with adult money is
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a different feeling.
There's two guns that I want right now.
What are they?
I want that gun and I want the boombox from Q.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't own anything from Q. Actually, you might not have noticed this, but the suppressor adapter on that 4570 is the Q Plan B.
Yeah.
So it's one of the only ways to attach to the specific muzzle device that I got, and it shipped to me super fast because I had to rush and get that gun complete for the hog hunt. But
it can do more than hogs, man. This is really cool. It is really cool.
Well, when my little 13-year-old daughter, bops one off and rings the steel on the first round, you know that it's a smooth shooting gun.
Yeah, there's also something to be said for genetics being passed down.
The apple doesn't fall far, brother.
Yeah, I had a full Qui-Gon Jinn Metachlorians moment, the force is strong with this one, just seeing you teach her and interact with that, and especially as both of us are girl dads. My first thought was I'm recording this. This is for him because it's just a moment that those are the things where you're this is what will be what keeps you going when you feel down or when you're why am I doing this? You're doing this to spend time with your family and do things like that. I'm getting choked up thinking about it. It was just cool. She picked it up and you're do this, this, and this, and she responded and ping.
She's very teachable. And you have two girls yourself, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
But one of them is about to be out of the house soon.
Yeah. She thinks she is. Yeah. No, she's going to conquer the world. She looks like her mom and she acts like me. The world's cooked. Yeah, both of them have the world at their oyster. The world is their oyster. There's nothing that the two of them can't do. And it's a real point of pride that I have that both of them are still children in the sense of I was a fully formed adult by 12 because and I had to be I I was raised by wolves. Like there was no one looking out for me. No one was going to feed me. No one's going to do my clothes. No one's going to take care of me. Like I know my mom provided a house and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. But like the things that I did I was like self-sufficient. Like I had a job when I was 15, and then 16 after that until I went to high school. And
What was your first job when you were 15?
my first job when I was 15 was working at my stepdad's auto shop.
Nice.
And I would work there, do everything. And I did that for the summer, and then I couldn't do that anymore because of school. And so then I started working at a Zaxby's.
There's something about people that their first job is in the automotive industry. My first job was at Jiffy Lube, and I was 15.
Yeah, it sucked. You're doing all the worst stuff. Like I would move tires. Like one time in Memphis. So I was in Memphis. It's known for not being the best town in the world. I can say that because I live there. I don't care what anyone says. It sucks because if it wasn't so like rampant with corruption and all sorts of weird things, that like it would be a great place. It's the birthplace of rock and roll, but there's just a lot of issues there. Mm-hmm. And I was throwing these tires in the back of this old man's truck because he'd come there and pick them up and take them to the dump or whatever and sell them. And I'm throwing them and I'm throwing them. I'm throwing them. I look over the fence and it's in this parking lot, and I see these hands and they're like bloody. And this guy like pulls himself over it, and he's got like blood all over his face, and he looks at me and he starts running at me full sprint. And so I just start running and I start screaming for my stepdad. Mm-hmm. And I come around the corner and the shop manager grabs the guy, sits down, and him and my stepdad wrestle the guy to the ground. He had was smoking crack, and a crack pipe exploded. And
it blew up in his hand?
Blew up in his hands, and he was like crazy from all of that stuff happening, and the cops came and arrested him. And like that was a pretty normal day in Memphis.
That's like a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's just like, it's funny it's not funny. It's interesting to me. People were like, they talk about like how it's great and stuff. And I'm like, where do you live? And they like live in the furthest outskirts of the city, like beyond the suburbs, like barely connected to it. And that's fine. But that's not Memphis. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a completely different place. And there's all sorts of problems like that. Like, the mayor, famously did a bunch of stuff at that time where he was like skimming off the top for the pyramid being sold, to Bass Pro Shop and all those things. Like, there's just always things like that happening. Mm-hmm. And like it's just not a good place to grow up. There's no other way to say it. I don't know.
So 2006, you graduate high school. You joined the Marines right after that?
Yes.
And how long were you in the Marines?
So at that time, I was kicking around a few ideas, and I went and talked to the different branches. I talked to the Navy, and I talked to the Coast Guard, and I talked to the Air Force, and actually had a pretty good ASVAB score. Mm. So I had a lot of options. But my only fear was that I would get somewhere, and then I would get locked into like a job I didn't want to do. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, well, you can do this and you'll get to do infantry stuff. And they kept like pitching me that. And I was like, I'm not doing like kind of infantry stuff. I want to do infantry. Like if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like Live Leak was big at that time. I'm watching combat footage of, dudes going click, click, like going into Fallujah and stuff. Like, I don't want to risk that. And I understand that like non-combat MOSs do that stuff too. But like, what if you don't? You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I wasn't really willing to take that risk. So, I kept kind of like going back and forth, but I went and I picked up my friend Luke, who was my wife's cousin. That's actually how I met her. And he was going on pre-deployment leave, and it was his dad's 50th birthday, and they asked me to pick him up. I picked him up, and he had like this swagger about him, dude. Like he was like standing up straight, and he's, dressed like got the weird digi pattern that looks like limestone. I don't know who like greenlit that. You know what I'm talking? What uniform is that?
Are you talking about the early Marine digital one?
No, the Army, the gray digital.
Yeah. It's not.
Did they not look at a map when they're like, we're going to a desert?
It only works on grandma's couches, and everybody knows the photo of the soldier laying on like this floral patterned couch. He's invisible. Yeah. So like we just need to cart these couches around everywhere, and
that would work.
Just mount. It'd be like a Toyota Technical, except on the back of a 2.5 you'd put this floral patterned couch, and then you just pop up when you have to shoot. I'm up, he sees me, I'm down kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right back onto the couch and you disappear. It's absolute garbage.
Did not work in Iraq or Afghanistan, though. Did not blend in anywhere.
It's weird that Afghanistan's actually more green than people think.
It is, but for sure, it looked like weird gravel. Like, that was my first thought of it. I was like, I don't like that. And, you know, but he had like this thing about him, and I was still on the fence, and I was like, man, like he's kind of got this swagger about him. My cousin had joined 4 years before me, and he had that same kind of, you know, that kind of pop up, you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I take him to the party. We show up, and I don't know. I was kind of a bad kid. There's no other way to say it. Like, if you wanted, I could, whatever you need. All right, here's the story. I knew that this lady had worked a certain gas station, and if you showed up and you gave her a 20 for a 6-pack or whatever it was at the time, or 2 6-packs actually, you know, if there was no cops around, she'd give it to you. Other times she would say no, whatever, and then push you away. That means the cops are in the parking lot, right? That's the kind of knowledge that I had as a 16-year-old. Okay, so that's it.
Everybody I knew which gas station to go to if you were looking for black and milds. I'll just put it that way.
Dude. I mean, I'm not. No, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'd go in. Well, that's the thing. You go in there with like black and milds. You always have something else, and then like 2 6-packs, and then she would like give you the you know, swing away.
Not right now.
I don't want to name her, but like it was right next to like 2 strip clubs in town in Memphis. But like, that's not knowledge you get if your dad and your mom hug you. But if they don't, you end up like me. So that was like my connection to Luke, is that like if he wanted to talk to someone, he wanted to meet a girl, or he wanted to know like what I knew, he was very sheltered, homeschool for a long time, you know, because his parents loved him, and I didn't have any of that. But they were very, very kind to me, this whole family. And so I get there, drop him off, and you know, it's going great. Everyone's having fun. And I look across the room, and there's this girl. And I go, whoa, who is that? Who's that girl? And I go, I had to invite every girl that Luke, that I could think of just to meet Luke before he went to the war. Like, there's no way he invited a girl. Like, what is this? Why is he sleeping on this baddie over here he never told me about? I go up to him, and I go, hey man, who's that girl? And he goes, what girl? And I go, that girl. He goes, oh, that's my cousin Christy. I go, that's your cousin Christy? What are we talking about, your cousin Christy? He goes, yeah, she lives in Nashville. And I go, cousin Christy lives in Nashville. I was like, I've known you for a few years now. We've never talked about cousin Christy that lives in Nashville. What's the deal with cousin Christy that lives in Nashville? You need to, you know, put me on game. And he's like, you weren't ready for it. And I go, yeah, you're probably right. I tell you what, though, I'm going to marry that girl. 2 weeks later, we were dating. And not long after that, we were married.
Still married?
Yes, still married.
2 kids, too.
2 kids. We're keeping them. I don't want to brag.
I mean,
17 and 15. We've committed. Yeah.
There's still time. If, you know, you want to refresh.
Yeah, we're very blessed, but like that was a moment I saw her I saw my whole life. I don't know what else to say. Everyone's like, ooh, whatever, but like it's really like a notebook situation. Like from across the room, I knew I was like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to give her the best life I can. And that's like a singular thought I continued.
So this is before you joined the Marines.
Yeah, and so we
back.
We dated for a little while, and I told her, you know, because that made me kind of pull back, because I was like, I got this gorgeous woman in my life now. What am I gonna do, you know? And she was like, I think you could do it. And I wasn't getting a lot of support from people, and they're like, oh well, I don't think you can do it. I don't think you do that. And it's not. I don't know, I've thought about this a lot. I can't decide if they were pushing me back because they didn't think I could do it, or if they were scared. But even still, like, I didn't like to hear that. I'd been really I was in a place of like real self-doubt and unsure of my abilities. And like at that time too, I was like 110, 5'7". I was
not a big guy.
Not a big guy, not at all. I mean, there's nothing I could do. Like, I mean, I was doing everything I could, eating everything I could, but like, I wasn't holding on to weight. I couldn't do it to save my life. And, you know, I was kind of worried about that. And then like, you have this idea of like what you think like military people look like too. All of it was wrong. You know what I mean? Like the most like out of shape people are usually legitimately monsters, or people that are like real killers don't look like Jack Reacher. They look like Christian Craighead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like just like a normal British guy, not like, Alan, whatever his name.
Yeah, he looks like he's gonna cook a perfect burger, not put 2 rounds in somebody's forehead.
Yeah. Not like he's been killing men since before me and you were born. Right. So like,
awesome dude, by the way.
he's one of the best. I love him to death. Like he put up a post the other day. He's like, American bacon's better. And it's just a pile of bacon.
Because it is.
Yeah, it is. But it's a pile of bacon and a staccato. And I'm like, I'm so glad we adopted him, But, yeah, I had all this doubt and I don't know. She kept telling me, she's like, I think you can do this. And I'm like, well, what happens to us? She's like, I'll be here. And I'm like, okay. And, I went to the recruiting office. I'd met a gunnery sergeant who just got there and he just got back from Iraq, or such a weird time. I even remember them being like, I just got back from, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, Barracudas. And I was like, what is it? Such a crazy idea. I can't believe they numbered deployments, like, because they thought they were not gonna be that many of them. Do you remember that?
I mean, maybe. I don't know.
In the early part of the Iraq War, they were literally like, I'm on OIF 3.
Oh yeah.
Right?
OIF 1, 2, 3.
And I was like, guys, this doesn't feel like a numberable situation.
Yeah.
But they all did that, and he was like,
it still confuses me when people say, "Well, I was in OIF 3," and I'm like, when was that?
I wouldn't tell people that because it stinks of hubris. Like it's just like we thought that's how great we were. Like we thought there would be like 3 of these.
Mission accomplished.
Fool me once, can't get fooled again. But no, it was this guy. So they in the Marine Corps they have like these tiles of like all the different characteristics, and he's like running through his spiel, and I'm literally like sitting there like this. I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. And he's like, honor. He like puts all the tiles on. He goes, which one of these are important to you? And I just go, listen, I just want to join the infantry. Here's what I want to do. And I pushed all the tiles at him at once. Let's just do that. And he's like, are you sure? And I was like, 03 infantry. I'm not signing anything else. Are you going to be able to help me or not? He goes, yeah, I can help you. All right, cool. Let's do it. And it was brutal going through that packet signing with him. Absolutely brutal. He didn't know anything.
What do you mean he didn't know anything?
He had just shown up there, and I was the first recruit he had ever put in. So, like, it's a stack of papers. He's having to talk to the staff NCOIC. Like, it went from, like, can I swear?
Yeah, this is Funker530. If you can't say a bad word, I mean, I think we're doing it wrong at this point.
It went from, like, are they fucking me? To, like, oh, no one knows what they're doing. Like, I went through, like, a full... spectrum of emotion, because at first you're like, they're just trying to mess stuff up, blah blah blah. No, he was like literally at one point going paper by paper back to the guy being like, is this how we do it? Is this how we do it? Is this how we do it? And then it was only like after a few hours, he's like, you're my first ever. And I go, well, this is pretty easy. I told you what I wanted. Just like, give me the fast track. And he's like, well, there's a lot of documents. I'm like, okay, I know what to write. I'm not leaving if it says anything other than 03 infantry, right? Because in the Marine Corps, I don't know how everyone else does it. They're like, if you want a job, you can sign up for a field. And so I signed up for the 03 field. So it guarantees me that I will be in an infantry job. It doesn't guarantee me which one though.
Yeah, so it's not going to necessarily guarantee, 0331 or 0311.
Yeah.
It's just you will be in the infantry structure somewhere. So the way the Army does it, you can pick specifically.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, it kind of boned me because the recruiter made it sound like I was going to be Jason Bourne. Turned out I really, really know how to use PowerPoint now.
Yeah.
Which was really helpful in the civilian sector for a little while. Yeah. So I'll say it set me up pretty good. But the Army let you pick very specifically what you want to do.
You know who you remind me of? Ewan McGregor in Blackhawk Down.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's like checking in Orlando Bloom. First off, that movie's full of total babes. Just babes central.
It is a star-studded cast, and it is probably that came out in what, 03?
Yeah,
something like that. That movie is probably why I joined the Army.
I mean it was so incredible. But he's in there and he's like, "What skill do you have?" And he's like, "Typing." Right? That's kind of like how you strike me a little bit. Like you could read, and they were like, Put Ronnie over there. He's a reader. And then they would say it like he's a reader, you know? Like,
yeah, but then he goes out on target with him and absolutely strokes the 203.
Yep.
He did kind of get himself blown up.
Hey,
but
these things happen.
He went for it. He full sent it out there.
Hey, he did it. He learned not to get up against the wall.
Yeah,
Like,
get away from the walls,
dude. I was with the unsub guys and we were doing the tour, and I came out and did the thing with them, and we were flying from Atlanta to Boston, and like I got off the thing and I just like looked at, I can't remember who I looked at. I think it was Jake Watson, and he's like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I just watched Blackhawk Down. Man. This is such a great movie." I got like choked up when Gordy and Stugart get down.
Gordy's gone, man. Yeah,
I'll be outside. Good luck. And I'm just like, those are fucking heroes, dude.
yeah.
And so we ended up quoting like Blackhawk Down the rest of the time, but it's just a weird, funny moment to see like that. And I remember how old I was when I watched that, much like you, and then jump cut military coming full circle to everything else. So all I have to say is, I joined the infantry. I don't know. But yeah, I joined the infantry and I left early. I left February 2007. Yeah, that's when I left for boot camp.
So I graduated 2007 and left June of 2007. So you were a year behind me coming into the military.
I was a year behind you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wait, when did you go to boot camp?
It would have been like June 2007.
Well, I was in boot camp in February 2007. So I was ahead of you.
Well, that's when, this is semantics because I'm behind me. When I say behind me, I mean before me.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, I went to Paris Island, did the thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's all very theatrical, and I don't know. My cousin had talked to me and he had told me a few things. They do this thing called the moment of truth where they try to get you to break your contract, basically, where like a Lance Corporal comes out and he goes, "My name's Lance Corporal Smith, and here's the thing. If you want to be a Marine, you need to tell me right now if your contract is messed up, because if it is, we're going to fix that. Accountability. Have you done drugs? Have you done this? Have you done stuff?" And all prior to this, the recruiters are like, you don't tell them nothing. You don't tell them anything, okay? Dude, this is 2007. The GWAT was hot and coin is cool. You understand what I'm saying? They are pumping bodies. One of my best friends went to boot camp over going to jail because he came home and his old lady was in bed with someone else, and he took an axe handle to him and almost called a manslaughter case, but the judge was like, "How about the Marines?" He goes, "All right, I'll do it." Jump cut, we're in Afghanistan. He goes, "Man, I wish I'd gone to jail." Like they're doing this thing, and I came with like a few guys from Memphis, Justin Humphrey and Jarvis Applewhite, great guys. I wish I'd actually been able to maintain better contact with them, but like they went. One was like I can't remember what one was, like a mechanic guy, and the other one was like an admin dude. But like great dudes, great Marines. We took care of each other. But there was these other dudes who were like standing up to like go tell him, "I want to be a Marine." And I like grabbed this one guy because like we're in a room like in these desks, and the guy's like, "You come up here and we set this straight. We'll fix this. If you've done drugs or anything." The main thing is they're looking for people that have like dishonest paperwork so they can kick them.
Yeah.
They can either kick them or change their contract and make them open contract to fill whatever
To fill the Marines' needs.
Yeah. And it's a 50-50 shot, to be honest. And this one dude stood up and I literally like pulled him down and he goes, and I was like, don't do it. I don't know his name. Let's just say his name's Smith, right? And he's like, I'm going up there. And I was like, dude, this is a game. You don't understand, this is a game. He's like, no, I want to be honest. I want to be truthful. I'm like, brother, this system is made to make a product. They don't want you to fail. It's a game. They're not trying to make you fail. They need the bodies. They need you to be the product. He kept going up there, like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 of them did. And after that, I only saw him in supply passing out camis to everyone.
Oof.
So he got separated after that. But he stayed at Paris Island for like 6 months. Mm-hmm. And they out-processed him. Never got to do 5 minutes of Marine Corps. And I saw him at the end of boot camp as he gave me like my final stuff, and he was like, I wish I listened to you. That's all he said to me. And I was like, I'm sorry. I just kept going, but it sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's not the story he tells his family, but like,
yeah,
it sucks that he tried and like I think he said he's like, but I smoked pot. I need to tell him. I was like, you don't need to tell him. This is the government, dude. You don't need to tell them anything. What are you talking about? I'll be lucky if I tell him my name. You know,
You're not gonna waterboard that out of me.
no.
I'm talking shit because I did exactly what that guy did.
Did you do it?
I did. Yeah.
Come
I
on,
smoked
man.
a lot of weed.
And you told him?
Yes.
Why?
Yeah. Well, they
They
weren't.
wouldn't have found. They wouldn't have.
I know now,
Yeah.
but they didn't change anything on mine, and I was going into Intel. You know,
You got lucky though, but
Yeah.
at that time it was a real. I mean, you know, I know some guys who
well,
got.
the Marines might have treated it differently than the Army, right?
I think I honestly at that time I think it depended on like where he was in the order of people that did that. So like if there were 5 people that did it, I'm pretty sure he was number 5. The rest of them came back. And I even think they give you an option too, which is part of it. Like, do you want to go?
Maybe needs of the Marines or out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which not for nothing. I don't. Nah, I would have stayed. I would have stayed. Even if they made me open contract, I still would have stayed.
Right.
Would have sucked, and I would have made every effort I could to move out of that, but I wasn't gonna do open contract or anything because I realized very early on from my uncle and my cousin that like you give them a lot when you sign up, so you need to hold on to whatever you can for like making decisions about your career and whatever path you want to choose. So like that was ground I was willing to fight for. I'm gonna be in the infantry. I'm gonna do this. This is mine. Everything else I'll figure out. No. You know, crawl, walk, run, and gain more terrain throughout my career. But like, I don't want to start off on my back foot, being like, "Oh, I'm here," and like, I don't know what I'm doing in a career field I don't even want to be in.
And then, so when did you first deploy? So you have 2 deployments, right?
Yeah, 2 deployments to Afghanistan. Yeah.
Both to Afghanistan. You never went to Iraq.
Nope.
So when was the first Afghanistan deployment?
So did boot camp. That was whatever. Went through it. I gained 30 pounds.
I'd imagine so.
I was a double rat.
It's always weird that you have that. There's 2 kinds of people. You either lose a massive amount of weight, or then, the people that grow up, kind of smaller guys, they end up gaining weight, and it's, one of those 2 things is going to happen. You had people trying to like starve themselves, and it's like, no, you don't need to do that. You're going to get your ass kicked.
Yeah.
So one way or another, you're going to get in shape in boot camp.
They understand how to do this. Like they've got it down to a science. And I was on like, a lot of times we were on like government programs at school, meal plans and stuff. I found out we were like poor in 3rd grade because the only teacher I remember, Miss Pennybaker, who taught me how to write cursive. She came back behind me, put her hand on my shoulder, and she goes, "Zach, I just want to let you know that there's no more before school meals or whatever for you." And I was like, "Okay, thank you." And then she told no one else in the class. I was like, "Oh, I'm poor." Like, no, like, because we would go there and get breakfast, and that's not for everyone. And I never paid for it. I just typed in my social security number, pop, 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 pop. Like, and I knew that at a young age. So that was when I like locked it in. And
it doesn't always click until a certain point. Then it kind of hits you.
I mean, honestly, at that time where we were socioeconomically, a lot of people were like that. But that was like the times where I was moving to different schools, and I moved from one school to another, and like, I would tell them I couldn't see the board in school because I needed glasses, and they would just move me closer to the board. Like that's the type of education I was getting as a child. Not like maybe this kid needs glasses, and they're like, no, he's too far away. Let's move him closer to the chalkboard. And I would, that's basically like what it was in a nutshell. But I put on that weight, and then like I was moving differently. Like I went from being like 10 pull-ups to knocking out 20, a pretty solid 3-mile run, anywhere between like 19 to 20, and then getting first class PFTs and everything. Like I started to like, I went from a boy to a man. And then we did that whole workup with the 24th MEU, and they're like, you're going to like the Mediterranean and all this stuff. And we did all this like extra training because a Marine Expeditionary Unit, like the 24th MEU, is basically a base with wheels. They can be anywhere. They respond to anything. And, that's what they told us we're going to do. And I was like, oh, this sucks, dude. I can't be in the infantry and miss the war, which is crazy to say in 2007. But like, if you're in the infantry, especially, you don't deploy to a combat zone, you're dead. Like you're nothing. At that time, and even still now, deployments are what make careers. And if you don't deploy, you don't get promoted, you don't get new jobs, you don't get anything. And it's literally like a scarlet letter. And so I was like, dude, I can't do this. But all the seniors were pumped because they had done Ramadi. You know, they were like, this is great. You know, we're going to be on a ship and all this stuff. So we did the training. And then, by that time, my wife had, we'd found out my wife was pregnant with our first child. And
how old were you when you found out?
I was 20.
20, yeah.
Yeah. And, it was a real big deal. It was a big deal. I had to talk to everybody about that. And I hated it. So I started learning that I needed to lock in and treat this like a job because they were looking for, they're like, this young PFC Bell's got his wife pregnant, all this stuff,
Sure.
I had to be squared away. I had to know the job, had to know, if you asked me a question, I knew the answer, stuff like that. And I even had to talk to my battalion commander about it, because he made special circumstances for me to do certain things. But we went home on pre-deployment leave, and on pre-deployment leave, they called us back early, and they're like, "We're going to Afghanistan." And I was in Nashville. I was like, "I'm not gonna make it." It was very scary at the time, but I stood on business of hey, if you're gonna mark me AWOL, fine, but the war's not going anywhere, and I'm gonna stay here because my wife had gone into labor the day I was supposed to be back. And so I called my staff sergeant, who was he was a very enthusiastic staff sergeant, right? He had a real hands-on approach to leadership, if you catch my drift. Yeah.
One of them Woodline NCOs.
Yeah, except he didn't like to take the time to walk to the Woodline.
The Woodline came to him.
Yeah. He would I remember one time we were in a platoon, we were in a company formation, and somebody said something like, "Third platoon sucks." He has this real thick Mexican accent. He goes, "What the fuck did you say, motherfucker?" And he goes, "Third platoon," and he walked into the other platoon and was like, "Come here, bitch," and just started swinging on people. And it was this whole ordeal. And by that time, the first sergeant came out, I was like, "What's going on?" And he was like, "Nothing." And he walked back. It was crazy. And they had to be like, "Dude, calm down. And he'd do that stuff all the time. He'd always get on to you if you didn't have your write in the rain in your pocket, but he would always write on his hand because he always forgot his. It was just a crazy guy. And he even told us he got removed from the drill field because he got too enthusiastic. That's what he would tell people. Yeah. "They say I get too excited when I was a drill instructor. I don't know. I guess they're weak bitches." So that was my platoon sergeant. So I was when I came to him telling him that my wife was pregnant, he was like, "This is the dumbest thing you could," he was not great. But then afterwards he would ask me stuff like, "What's my plan?" and things like that. He was really a lot of bravado. And honestly, he didn't really know how to be a leader other than to just kind of bully people around. And I also think I reminded him of someone that they had lost on the previous deployment, who had also had a child. That was a conclusion I came to, and after talking to other people who were on that deployment with him. So I think it, in his desire to protect me for whatever weird reason, that he thought if he put pressure on me, that would make me strong or whatever. I don't know. It was a very unhealthy, not good approach to leadership. And to be honest, I didn't learn a single thing from him. I learned it from my squad leader and my team leader, because if you want in the military, especially during that time, if you want to prepare your troops for war, you got to pour everything into them. And you don't abuse them. You don't hit them. You make them as tactically proficient and as dangerous as possible. And that's what my leadership did to me. And I don't know, it was just kind of weird. So when I called him to tell him I wasn't coming, he had a weird human moment. He's like, "Okay." He's like, "Okay, it's fine. You can leave with Charlie Company." It was like that. And so my daughter was born. And I remember I put her on my chest. It's like a little burrito. And 2 days later, I was leaving for Afghanistan. I left there.
2 days.
2 days. That's all I got with her. 2 days. Got dropped off at the airport. It was the only time I ever got upgraded to first class. And left from there. And then about 4 days later, I was in Afghanistan. So 2 days with her, came back to North Carolina, packed my bags, and then I started making the journey to Afghanistan. So like from the time she was born to the time I left the country, about a week. But I was only with them 2 days because we moved them back to Nashville to stay with her family while I was gone. And you know, as you know, being a father, like it was only, I wasn't scared of anything until that moment, right? I wasn't like worried. I didn't think anything was going to happen to me. But like when I felt her against my chest, I was like, oh no, what if I don't come back to this? Like, what if something happens? This is the worst decision I've ever made. That's the first thought I had. And then the next round was, I will literally bend this earth to my will to get back to her. I don't care what has to happen. Whatever I have to do, I'm going to do it, you know? And I just kept thinking about her and, you know, how selfish it was to put my daughter and my wife in this position to where, like, they might have to start all this stuff without me. And, you know, they might spend their whole lives not knowing how much I love them or how, like, you know, prior to having a child, my life was black and white. You know, you don't really know what you're missing until it happens. But then when you have a child, you become a father, your capacity for love is amplified to a place where you don't really understand your life before it, and the world's in color. And, you know, I just wanted that. So I got to Afghanistan, and they had done a pre-deployment drug test, and a lot of people failed that. A lot. Like, enough to where they had to reorganize the companies.
Oof.
Yeah. I don't endorse any drug use of any kind. However, I will say this. They did test guys before we went to war. So, I mean, I felt like not the best idea. I don't know if they were just trying to purge some bad apples or whatever it was, but like, you ask me no questions, I'll tell you no lies. If there's ever a time people are going to do drugs, it's probably before they go to Afghanistan. You know what I'm saying? And it was funny because I was hanging out with those guys as I was waiting to leave with the other company. And like every day they'd be like, all of you are pieces of shit. Here's what you pieces of shit have to do. And they would list off the names and they go, Bell, sorry about that. You just go hang out in the company office or in a room, go play video games. Congrats on being a father, dude. We're like really proud of you. Like they would yell at everyone else. They'd be like, and what did you do? And I'm like, I had a child. And they're like, oh yeah, you're cool, dude. But like they would just yell at all of them. They kicked out most of them except 2 or 3 guys I know who told the truth and actually got to finish their Marine Corps enlistment. So there's something to be said for that. You know, it was so weird. So like when I got to Afghanistan, I showed up to my platoon and we were like doing drills and stuff, like doing acclimatization. For people that don't know, you spend a certain amount of time in a foreign country getting used to the new environment before you like deploy on missions. It's not like you don't just show up. Like nobody just shows up. And I was there and my staff sergeant came up to me and my friend and he's like, he won't care if I say his name. He's like, Bell Davis, come here. I was like, yes, Staff Sergeant. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a nightmare. Like, he's just going to, like, haze us or something. And he's like, you two are no longer in 3rd platoon. You're going to 2nd platoon. I was like, what? And he had these sunflower seeds. And I don't know if he knew how to eat them, but, like, it was a known thing that he didn't know how to eat sunflower seeds. So he was, like, spitting them out whole. Like, he didn't ever deshell them. It was so funny watching him do it. He was like, he would just spit them out like that. He's like, go. You're not mine anymore. And then my other platoon sergeant like raises his hand and he like does like this. And it was literally like getting paroled, like out of Folsom prison. Like it was insane. So
why do you say that?
That's how bad 3rd platoon was.
Really?
Yeah. Like when I moved out of the tent, people were like throwing stuff at me.
Jeez.
Like water bottles being like, of course it's Bell. Of course it's Bell. Of course he goes to 2nd because 2nd was the best platoon. They treated you like adults. No one was getting hazed. It was like the cool kid platoon. That's the only way I think to say it. Like if anyone was here, they'd be like, yeah, it's true. Like 3rd platoon was like a prison, you know, run by a dictator who was ill-tempered and like just would fly off the handle at any given moment. Like 2nd platoon was like, hey, welcome. Want to like watch a movie? Like it was great. So like when I moved in there, I met with my squad leader, Ryan. And he goes, hey, what's up? My name's Ryan Madden. We're doing working hours. Call me Sergeant Madden. Otherwise, just call me Ryan. What's your name? I go, my name's Lance Corporal Bell. And he goes, don't do that. What's your real name? My name's Zachary Bell. He goes, all right, Zach. Need anything, let me know. And I was just like, good to go, Sergeant. And he's like, Ryan. I was like, understood, Ryan. And he's like, he's like, it's like a pound puppy. He was trying to reform. And, I spent the rest of my career in Alpha Company 2nd Platoon. And that like one moment changed so much for me. it would have been successful in 3rd Platoon, but like the ground was much more fertile there. Right.
Sounds like a very different approach to leadership styles, right?
Yeah.
To actually, there's, in my opinion, right, and I'm looking at this from the outside looking in, there's nothing wrong with either of those leadership styles. One can be effective for certain people more than the other. Mm-hmm. There are certain people that need, in my opinion, a harder hand.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a hand, but that need a little bit more of that stronger approach when it comes to instruction, to guidance, mentorship. Some don't, plain and simple. And I think what makes effective leaders, have you ever read something that I always tell people to research is French and Raven's Bases of Power?
No.
The people that understand how to apply the different leadership types are always going to be the most successful. Right. So you can use your legitimacy, your power of legitimacy, your position that is legitimate power. You can use referent power, which is what it sounds like, like the popular kid in school, that they have referent power. Anyway, so Ryan and
2nd Platoon
and your previous 3rd Platoon leadership, just really two different leadership styles.
It couldn't have been more different.
Yeah.
Right. Like Ryan's literally from the West Coast. He grew up in Portland. He's always he's kind of a hippie a little bit. And then there was my 3rd Platoon staff sergeant who got fired from being a drill instructor for beating up boots. One time, one of the guys in our platoon reported him for being the way he was, and he was teaching a land nav class, and this is during the workup. And he goes, "So apparently some of you bitches are weak, and now I'm being investigated. And I can tell you what, it's happened before, it'll happen again, and I'm still here, motherfucker. Now back to this motherfucking class." And he started teaching us this class, and the kid, and he was looking, we all knew who it was, right? We all knew who ratted him out. I'm not going to name him. But he was looking at him in this class about back to 10-digit grids, you boot bitches. He was looking at him. And honestly, that was a shift. After when that moment happened, he made that one guy his sole purpose to destroy, and it worked. But oddly enough, they all remember him he was the best, and they all loved him. I'm like, he hated all of you. What are you talking about? But Ryan,
that's what I'm saying, right?
He didn't have any real leadership abilities. The hard facts of it. I'm 37 now, so I can look back on it. Is that what he was taught was that you lead from a position of power and authority, right? That doesn't give you leaders. That gives you minions. But he didn't want leaders. He didn't want people to challenge his power or authority. He wanted minions. And when someone tells me we got to go this way, it's the only way we can go, my first thought is probably not. Mm-hmm. That's who I am. I don't like being a contrarian. I honestly wish I wasn't. But someone's like, this is the only way it can be done. I go, probably not.
So French and Raven talk about that in what they call the base of legitimate power is it can be one of the most fickle because it's entirely predicated upon fear or repercussion. If you don't do what I say, there's something bad that's going to happen to you. And that basis of power, and when I say power is typically taken in a negative connotation. I mean, leadership being different than power. I mean, getting somebody to do something. Yeah. Right. So as an expert, there's such a thing as expert power. Yeah. But the power of legitimacy in a legitimate position that I am the platoon sergeant. What I say you need to do, and if you don't do it, there will be repercussions. Yes, to a lot of people, that's well, yeah, that's what you do. Well, the military uses bases of legitimacy, but some of the most effective leaders will use things like expert power. They'll use referent power, because again, you're basically forcing people to do something on a basis of fear, and that's going to be less powerful itself than, again, finding common ground with somebody, helping them understand the why, if you will. But both can be effective. It's just people will respond differently to different bases of power.
My main problem with it is no one learned anything.
Sure.
And like everything I learned from my team leaders and my squad leaders. In 3rd Platoon, I didn't learn anything from him. And then stuff that I was studying on my own. Like I was reading books about the culture in Afghanistan. I was reading books about the culture in Iraq. Like I was studying this. I was treating it like a job. Like nobody learned from him. And that's ultimately what I didn't enjoy about that experience is like I don't know. I think he feels like he did the best he could. And I've thought about this a lot. But like ultimately, he was just doing the best he could with what he had. And that older generation just didn't know anything. They lacked all emotional intelligence. They weren't like empathetic. They didn't understand things. And I think it really came from a sincere place of like trying to protect people because that previous deployment was so hard on all of them. I think it had rocked the foundations of who they were as people. And so none of them were responding correctly. Really, they were all just having a trauma response, if I think about it. Because I've been reflecting on this a lot lately because, the most recent episode of the After Action podcast is with my squad leader, Ryan. And so, like, it was so funny that he was, like, in my house and all my family was at cheer. I usually go to all the competitions, but there's, like, 1 or 2 of them every year where they do, like, a girls-only trip, which is funny because they're all kind of girls-only. I'm just there. And it's me and, like, 3 or 4 dads hanging out. But they were out of town, and so he was moving to different coast. And it was like the first time we had been together and slept in the same building and not right next to each other. It was just funny because every other time we had been right next to each other. And so like thinking about all the experiences that we've had together outside of my wife, he is the person I've spent the most time with like every single day. Like very recently, my wife just overtook more days with her than with him because like I was with him every day for 4 years. Like from that moment on, we were never separated. Like I went from being like a lonely peon to like he started training me, my team leader started training me, and like we started doing the work and I started learning like real, like I had really good team leaders and squad leaders in 3rd Platoon who did a lot of stuff for me, but they really leaned into me just as much in 2nd Platoon, which I was so grateful for. And that allowed me to succeed to the highest levels. And that deployment to Afghanistan was hectic and it was scary. We lost people and that was horrible. But we always had superiority of the battle space. We always owned it. We were never on our back foot, like responding to things. Like we were always like pushing the objectives and maintaining like our control over the place, even in the scary moments.
I think that's something that, there's a lot of people that will draw upon Afghanistan and Iraq and us leaving almost as though it was that we got our asses kicked in a way. And I continue to remind people that we had our absolute way with the place whenever we wanted to, wherever we wanted to. We might not be very good at putting your country back together, but the United States military is extremely capable in tearing it down. Yeah. And I think people need to continue to understand that.
Yeah, they need to shut the fuck up. I mean, I terraformed that whole part of that country. I put more dents in Toyotas than Japan. Like, I don't want to hear anything. Like, if it's a Toyota, you need to shoot it in Afghanistan. That's a wrap. Corolla, Hilux, whatever. I've seen what they can do. They can take a beating. But, like, did we lose? I don't know. That's not really...
That's such a subjective argument.
It's so subjective. But, like, what I'm telling you is we terraformed that part of the world to our will. And it was not easy. And it was kind of weird, like pushing out to objectives. And you would see a battalion of tanks that got left in place by the Russians that had been stripped down. And you'd see like weird, like Soviet sickle and hammers and stuff on the side of people's houses. And you're like, what the hell is that? Like one dude came out and he had like maybe 4 fingers on both of his hands. And he's like, I'm not scared of you, white boy. I was killing Russians before you were born. And I was like, all right, dude.
Whoa, buddy.
Yeah, I come in peace. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I'm not scared of you. Obviously, you should have been a little scared because he's down to less than 5 on 2 hands. So like, he went a little heavy when he should have gone light with some of the mixtures. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a old Soviet Camp Phoenix used to be on the far north end of Kabul. We would have to make runs to Camp Phoenix when we would do our logistics runs in and around Kabul. We'd go HKIA,
On Ring Road?
Yeah.
The one road, yeah.
Yeah. So there was this massive amount of old Soviet tanks just sitting out there, and it's one of my the easiest memories I can recall is just seeing a bunch, and they're like T-50, T-55s. These are like Korea era tanks.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, they got fucking cleaned up, bro.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
And it's just there. It's the graveyard of empires, right? So like it's a wild place. And because I think a lot too, people are like, we lost it. I'm like, no, we didn't lost. Y'all gave up is actually a thought I have. Like, I'll say this, and I don't know if I've ever said this publicly. We should have never left there. Like, that's just a hard fact. I don't know when we crossed that line or that Rubicon of we should never leave here, but we have done it in every other country that we have been in. Japan, Germany, Korea, Vietnam. Like, we still maintain a presence in all of those places. I hate that we did it. We're still in Iraq. No one talks about that. We still have positions there. But, like, we should have kept a base in Bagram. We should have kept a base in Kandahar. And that's it. Make them duty stations until we figure out something.
I don't know how much truth there is to it, but there was that story that came out very recently that the U.S. is going to be back at Bagram.
I'm hearing rumblings. Yeah, I mean it's
there was a report
it's unconfirmed.
about it. There was a report about it or something. I haven't. So I mean, for anybody listening or watching, by the time this comes out, there might be some additional fidelity that I'll get on it. I'll probably cover it in one of the shows, but I do find that to be interesting because it does change the narrative of us going there to, on the one hand, counter terror, right? To counter terrorism, and on the other hand, to occupy ground, right? Those two things don't necessarily have to be different, but that was a basis of argument for a lot of things, right? We weren't necessarily going there to annex, to expand territory, at least in the mainstream argument. But if we're maintaining a troop presence there, at least without the express request or permission of the host country, right? Because these other countries that we still maintain a presence is because those countries have asked us to continue maintaining that presence.
Yes, but they're also not full of rampant corruption the way Afghanistan was. During that time, Hamid Karzai, as I'm sure you know, was the president, and his brother was the biggest drug lord in the world who ran all of the heroin out of Afghanistan. So, like, if he, getting the cosign from him doesn't really mean much. And, like, the power vacuum that's been created has to be closed. And again, I didn't want to commit any more troops or any more lives, but like I've been thinking a lot about the withdrawal. Like, I don't know why we did it. Like, other than it just seems to have been a political move.
What's the benefit of us maintaining a presence in Afghanistan?
To continue to make sure that the country doesn't destabilize into a shelter for terrorism and illicit trade and all the different. I mean, there's all sorts of stories of, different countries going in there with mining operations, all sorts of different things. Like, it creates a power vacuum for chaos. And like, we can't just pull the cord out of that. I mean, why have we not left Iraq?
Yeah, so I actually would be a fan of us maintaining Bagram. I think without getting too far down into like opinions on the withdrawal, which I could probably rant on for too long, and why the hell we chose to do that out of H-Kaya rather than Bagram. We had a fully defensible airfield right there that we could have anyway. Bagram,
exactly.
I've been to H-Kaya many, many, many times trying to defend that absolute nightmare of a place. I can only imagine, and we saw how it went.
Yeah, and like especially when you meet Tyler too, like as we both know, like Tyler Vargas Andrews, Whistling Death, and go follow him wherever, find him. Like you hear it from him the way it happened. You're like, why did this happen?
Not allowing him to shoot,
not and just being hemmed up the whole time while it's like absolute chaos while people are Instagramming it. Like it was just, I don't know, like.
So where I was going, and I knew I was going to end up derailing us, but where I was going with that is when you look at it from a geopolitical strategy perspective, there's a reason that empires have tried taking over Afghanistan. Its location, its minerals, there is a lot of value in maintaining Bagram. The opposite question or the other side of that coin is people will ask, is that something that we should or need to maintain? And I don't know. I don't know what the right answer to that is.
I don't know that either, but we crossed that line a long time ago.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the problem. When we get to a place where like it's the literacy rate isn't dangerously low, or there's not always the constant threat of like radical Islam taking over the culture and like driving people. And I'm not saying Islam is bad as a whole. I'm just saying the way I saw it betray, make children strap grenades and bombs to themselves and do all the different things that they did, and it's highly documented. Like it was being used against these people who don't know any better, who can't read. They're just being told by someone that was paid off by the Taliban. That's all very trackable, right? The Taliban would come into a village and they would pay off the local leaders and they would say, hey, you do this, you get paid or whatever. And you won't get hurt. Only the Americans will get hurt. And they don't know any better. And it just kind of continues to go that way. How do you get rid of stuff like that? You increase education, you increase opportunity. And they go, wait, that doesn't sound like that's accurate. And that's how you change a society, right? You don't go top down, you go bottom up.
Sure.
And, and especially me, it was so hard, man. It was so hard. Like I didn't call home for 90 days the first time,
How long was that first deployment?
7 months, but we're out there 210 days, sure. Boots on the ground, living outside in a shanty. I'm the Army, getting a back rub and
I had cushy deployments, man.
No, it's fine. It's just a difference of mission, right? So the Marine Corps is a pioneering force, shock troops. We go in, break stuff, we leave. That's it, right? The Army's sustaining. Army's
exactly what I was going to say is a sustainment mission.
Yeah, I mean, at the Army's peak, it was 1 million. At the Marine Corps' peak, it was 250. Like, it's fine. I should have read the fine print going into it. Should have read the fine print. I didn't. But, I went on this patrol once, and there was this beautiful, beautiful little girl, and she would always wave to us, and I would always give her candy, and it reminded me of my daughter, right? Mm-hmm. Just my daughter. And I gave her candy, or MRE once. And I would like give her a bottle of water or whatever. And the one time I gave her Skittles, I saw her brother come up to her and take the Skittles from her and crack her over the head. And so I like literally threw my rifle around and I grabbed him and I cracked him on the head, and I got the interpreter and I go, come here. And he goes, what? And I go, you tell him if he ever touches her again, we'll come back here and we'll kill everyone. And he's like, you can't say that. And I go, I didn't tell you to say anything. I was like, do it. And you tell him that. He said, no one touches her. No one ever does that to her again. Tell him. And then he just like looks at me and he says it. And I was like, tell him to give her the Skittles. And I give her the Skittles. I don't know if I just admitted something bad, but it's what happened. And after that, they never hit her again. But never interacted with her bad. We would check on them. We saw this village every day. But I would see her and I would think of like how scared I was for her every single day. Just like that was her brother. Like, and that's what people don't understand about that place. That this culture is so prevalent that it's dehumanizing even people within it. And like, that was the stuff that people asked me what I did. That was the stuff that I was fighting for. I was fighting for that little girl,
Sure. So
nobody was.
Was that all? That was all your first deployment, right?
It was on my first deployment, yeah.
There's an iconic speech from the Global War on Terror. There's this Marine, and he is given probably one of the most moto speeches I have ever watched. It's difficult for me to recall all of it, but so many people have talked about being there that weren't actually, but you were.
Yeah. You're talking about the Gunny Walker and Marja speech, yeah. I was literally...
I know y'all figured out another secret that the Marine Corps has. We don't tell you shit, and we play games. Man, I knew we were leaving tonight fucking 7 months ago. Didn't tell y'all because we want you to get fucking pissed off. You might be envisioning us when you kill the enemy. But motherfucker, you're gonna be pissed.
There.
Was that first deployment or second deployment?
So that was my second deployment. I'll go quick. We went back. Ryan had started training me as a team leader, squad leader, and all this stuff. And, I got to be his first team leader, and they told us we were going to Iraq for 90 days. Great. That's cool. That That wasn't true. President Obama went to West Point, announces a troop surge, and we left for Afghanistan in December. No Iraq. And my wife was about a month away from giving birth to our second child because we had planned it around the deployment. And so we leave in December 2009. And so we get there and we're doing like probing missions and stuff, all working up to that, trying to figure out how we were going to insert into the town of Marja. That was the plan. We were trying to like go to the security ring and figure out stuff. And a few things had happened. Nothing really crazy. But I guess I can tell you the French reporter story too if you want.
Tell me whatever you want to tell.
Okay, so by that time we were I was waiting to see if my daughter had been born.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like I said, we're Marines. We're out there pushing the objective. You know, we're not Green Berets getting back rubs, you know, back at some fob or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm just playing, dude. Chill out, dude. It's fine. It's my life. Or Navy SEALs either, getting hair gel and book deals. Like we were out there being heroes. And sorry. It's all right. It's all right. It's okay.
I don't care. I'm neither of those things. So
yeah. Whoa. You know? No, I'm just kidding. But Ryan, to pick on me, assigned these French reporters to me. He's like, these are your problem. And I was like, Ryan. And he's like, Zach, they're your problem. And I was like, I don't want reporters. You know, because people don't know reporters, you know, they forget that they're in war and they forget that they don't have guns and they wander. They don't really know what they're doing. And then you add the fact that they're French, so they're going to pretend not to know the English I'm speaking to. It's a whole thing. And so we get up there and, you know, the names are like whatever, Jacques and, you know, Lumiere, whatever. It doesn't matter. And they go, we are from the Associated Press. And I go, yeah, my name's Zach. Here's the deal. I'm going to take you out with us. Whatever I say goes. You know, if I say, you know, run. If I say jump. You got to do it. It's my job to keep you safe. I'm going to do whatever I can to make that happen. Do you understand? Yeah, good to go. Oh, we have been there before. And I'm like, all right, cool. We go out 500 meters, contact front. And we get down. You know, I'm up. Now we're in the open. What do you do? I'm up. They see me. I'm down. I'm up. They see me. I'm down. Because I can see the village where we got to get to, but we're not there. And it's flat. All right. It's like this table. There's no cover. There's no concealment. And I look at them. And I go, come on, we got to go. I'm putting down fire. And I'm like, we got to go. And he goes, no. And I was like, what do you mean no? He's like, no. And I'm like, we got to go. And they're flat. They're like two crepes on the ground. And so I grab them up by the back of their flanks. And then we start bounding to get to cover. And we finish the rest of it, take more fire. We ended up coming back. And I bring him back inside. And he's like, oh, Monsieur, thank you so much. You saved my life. You are so great. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's cool, dude. He goes, if you ever need anything from me or the Associated Press, you let me know. I go, it's funny you mentioned that. Here's the thing. My wife's back home. She's supposed to have given birth to our second child by now. I'm really worried. It's a tough pregnancy. All this stuff happened at the last moment. I just want to know if she's okay. Can I borrow your cell phone? And he goes, and he's like, regretfully, I do not have a cell phone. I go, you don't have a cell phone? And he goes, oui. I go, you mean to tell me the Associated Press sent you out here to cover the war on terror in Afghanistan, but they didn't send you with a cell phone? Yes, it is very unusual. And I go, okay. All right, well, here's the deal, Jock. By this time, all my Marines have now walked in because I had led in the patrol. I was first team leader, and they're all gathered around. Everyone knows what I'm trying to do. I mean, my entire unit, shout out to the Marines of Alpha Company, was trying to communicate back to my wife to get word to me, the entire company, whether or not my daughter had been born. And I was like, Jock, here's the deal. I know you got a cell phone. I don't like that you lied to me about having a cell phone. You told me if I ever need anything, you get it for me. I just saved your life. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to give me your cell phone. Or I swear to God, I'm going to take your ass back out there and I'm going to leave you. No one's going to stop me, and no one's ever going to find you. But it's up to you what happens next. And he's like looking at me, and he's looking over my shoulder, and my Marines are like, we'll fucking do it. You know? They're like, we don't care.
The whole posse
They're
back
just like, yeah, come on, dude. You're the French reporter. We don't care about you. And he opens up his phone, and he hands it to me, and he goes, America's country code is 01. And I grab it and I go, you're goddamn right it is. And so I dial the number. I'm looking at my boys. It's kind of like the way I'm looking at you. And I call her and I go, hey, it's me. And she goes, where are you calling me from? I go, don't ever call this number again. It's a French reporter. And I was like, how are you? She goes, I'm fine. She's beautiful. We're doing okay. And I go, I love you. I promise you, I'll come home and I'll see you soon. Love you. And I hang up. I give the phone back to him. I go, it's a girl. And like they all erupt. And then that was the day I found out my second daughter was born. And, you know, not long after that, we pulled back into retrograde, went back to the main base, Camp Dwyer, and we started training again. And so that was when they were like, hey, we're going to insert into Marja. It's going to be the largest helo-borne assault since Vietnam. We're going to do it. And I started to get nervous. I started to get nervous because a lot of people started showing up. Everybody doesn't know if like a lot of collar weight starts showing up, it starts to get scary. Like, I mean, like I'd seen like a general before, and then there was like 3 of them, and then like 2 stars, 1 star. Like there was way too many people with like weight on their collar, and I was like, dude, we are so fucked. Like this is so bad.
They got the D-Day planning going on.
Yeah, like the way they were talking about it, I was like, we don't stand a chance. Like they were talking about AA guns. We don't know how many IEDs are in a certain area. We had rigged up devices to carry APOBs, anti-mining devices. Like, dude, and then on top of that, Alpha Company was going to land in the center of the town. And the way it was described just in the brief is like, think of hell. You're going to land in the center of it, right? I was like, cool. So all the day before the mission launches were speeches. So many speeches. At one point, one of my junior Marines looks at me and he goes, they do this for the first time? I was like, no, we're fucking
This
dead.
is it, boys. It's just...
They just like told us to go. Like, this is not great. And he's like, for real? And I was like, for real. And so we're doing them all day. Now, Walgren had been known to do these types of speeches. He'd done some before, and him and I had actually become quite close because Ryan went to squad leader school, and I did a range as a squad leader at Fort Pickett. And me and the other Lance Corporal and my friend Clayton Blunt were the only ones to not have to redo the range. And that was his first day there. And it was just because of the way we moved fire, and it just made sense to me. I came up with a plan. I put all my saws up on one spot, and I put the rest of my maneuver element and made them light so they can move quick, suppressing fire on top of the hill. You know, and for anyone who doesn't know, most squad leaders have done at least one deployment. I mean, at least one enlistment, multiple deployments, and I was doing their job after only one deployment and halfway through my first enlistment. Now, I'll never forget, I did that range and hit a pop-up, and I hear this guy roar, and he goes, Marine, who's the squad leader over here? I go, I am Gunner Sergeant. And he goes, Lance Corporal, you just made my dick move. So like, that was how we met. And then he made all of these other sergeants and corporals who talked so much shit to me, who swore that they were smarter than me, all this stuff. He goes, why are you not as good as this Lance Corporal? You should be embarrassed. And made all of them redo it except me and Blunt. It was awesome. So like, I had mad rapport with him. He was, you know, a company gunnery sergeant's the senior tactical advisor to a company. Like, he had been doing this job forever, and he was such a legend. Like, you know, staff sergeants would show up in their like F-150s or like, you know, regular like staff cars or like a, you know, a normal person car. He shows up, gym clothes, in a Porsche. You know? Like, it was like purple in the inside stuff. Like, what's up, Marines? Like, he just like literally showed up like he was just like just left the gym. You know, he had multiple things going on. Like, the Marine Corps is kind of like his side gig is what it always felt like. But he loved the trade, and he loved being an infantryman. And so we could always count on him to be the one that would advocate for us.
Sure.
And so he was always there. And he did funny shit, too. Like, he only drank Red Bull, 8-ounce Red Bulls, and he only smoked short Marlboro Reds. And both of them for the same reason. Got to be on the move, Marine. Don't have time. Like, it's just like, but he's constantly smoking them and constantly slamming Red Bulls. So we get there. We've done speeches all day, and now we're in a holding pattern. The base wasn't fully developed yet, so we didn't have a good way to get all of us with our gear with like 7 days worth of stuff over to the flight line. You couldn't get on buses, couldn't get on trucks. It's a whole thing. And so we're staging. So it's just Alpha Company. There's no other company associated with us. There's no one except Alpha Company and direct attachments like dog handlers, engineers, people like that. But there's no Bravo, there's no Charlie, there's nothing. It's just Alpha Company Marines. We're staged over there at company formation. We're underneath this light, and then like he just starts doing it. he just starts talking. And he just gives this like crazy speech that really kind of summarizes everything. He's like, John Glenn, first Marine to orbit the Earth in space. And, you know, at one point you can see like where I'm standing over there and underneath the thing. And I can still remember him just the way he was. Like every little thing he did, like every, you know, taking the cigarette, throwing it down. Like he was just the guy who spoke for us, the guy who understood what we were doing and the one who cared about us. And I didn't know how big of a moment it was that was happening, but I knew it was a big deal. I was like, this is special. You know, because I've known him for some time now, and I would always interact with him, and, you know, because he was always investing in me in case I became a squad leader, which I would become a squad leader on that deployment. So I had all of this like constant guidance and counseling from him. In addition to what I got from Ryan, I had it from him as well. And it's just crazy. And my only problem with the moment is that people say that they were there, they weren't. And, you know, that was for the Marines of 1-6. That was who that speech was for. But only the Marines of Alpha Company were there, and that's fine. My problem that I won't allow is I won't allow people to lie and say they were there. Because there's people in that video that aren't here anymore. They weren't there much longer after that. And for a while I thought it was petty, but it's not. It's not. Because it's my life, it's their life. And if I don't push back on it, who will? You know? And so to think that, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 years later, that it's still a thing that's like played in recruiting offices, it's still played everywhere, like that's so fucking cool to me. Because that's what the Marine Corps is about. That's what that's about, is that moment. And I won't allow people to steal that. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's my way of protecting it, you know? Because it's not just a moment in Marine Corps history. It's Zachary Bell right there. Ryan Madden right there, you know? Zachary Grew, Patrick Main, you know, the list goes on and on. Dave Emmonson, you know, and I'm not going to name people that aren't here with us because that's not my place, you know, because, and that's another thing. I don't say that because I wasn't close to them. I don't say it because I don't know what the family will feel when I say it. And I don't want to be another thing that makes their life harder, you know, because everyone's praying for their family member to come back. They weren't praying for Zach to come back. And I don't want to be another reminder that didn't happen. But I don't want the memory of who they lost to be forgotten. So I kind of think of myself as like a vanguard for that.
Nor soiled by people wanting to give themselves attaboys for things that they weren't a part of.
Which is it's crazy.
Sure.
But do you know, here's the thing that I've told people this, and you can look it up. One of the guys who said he was on Iwo Jima, Ray Gagnon, I believe, was not one of the flag raisers. And spent his whole career, I'm pretty sure, telling people he was. And then they found out like he wasn't. And his son's like, I don't know why my dad lied.
We have instances now, and this isn't the anti-hero podcast or whatever, but we have
I'm not trying to bash on it.
No. So where I'm going with that is war never changes, and the people that wage it don't either. We have even instances now where extremely prominent people are either embellishing or, you know, flat out lying about their service. And one of the things that I continue to try to help convey to people is that you don't have to. Right. Each role, each position in the military has an honor in and of its own, that just doing it, just being somebody to wear the uniform and put the boots on and deploy, actually go and apply yourself for what you're designed, which is to wage war. There's enough in that already.
Yeah.
It's not necessary for you to embellish your record or to take somebody else's record and apply it to yours, borrowed valor, if you will.
There's no, you should be proud of what you did. Like, and his name's Renee, and I'm pretty sure I found the article. It doesn't matter. Right. And if I'm wrong, I do apologize for that. I don't know, cut this out, editor, if I'm wrong. But the point is, if that guy will lie, anyone will lie. Like, I recently posted the video, as I post every year, and the guy was like, I'll tell you this, I don't even know who he was. He's like, man, I remember that speech. It was so cool being there with you, heavy equipment operator 1, 2, 3, 4. And I lost my fucking mind. I was like, no, you weren't. What are you talking about? You weren't here. And I started to go back and forth with this guy, and he's like, yeah, we're right behind you. And I was like, dude, we inserted on helicopters. Why would a wrecker be behind my company? There's 200 people in that company. I know them all by name. Who are you? Random guy? Boom, blocked, reported, done. We're out of here. Like, that's the end of it. You can lie to yourself. You can lie to your family. You're not going to lie about my friends. End of story. You're not a hero. You're just a guy that lies about his service. And I'm not going to allow that. I'm not going to wage war against everyone for the rest of my life, but I'm not. You can track it. You can see me. These are my friends. You know, I know exactly where Brian Walgren lives to this day. I still talk to him. Like, you're not going to take that because it is dishonest and it destroys the credibility of every other veteran that comes after you. And that's why they hate us. Because when most veterans talk, they just say the craziest shit to try and impress people over nothing. What? We got an extra drink on a flight? You got some free mozzarella sticks at a restaurant? You're embarrassing. And that's what I'm always trying to push against. Be proud of what you did. I'm fucking proud of you. I don't care what your job is. I care that you served honorably. You're part of the smallest group of people ever to do a thing. It's so fucking cool.
So I think that feeling that I can feel in this room how genuine you are about that, but I think people also latched on to that feeling that you have that you're trying to convey right now through the veteran with the sign work, man.
Yeah.
You know, I called it a silent protest earlier because it's, you know, a lot of veteran support, but it's also uplifting for people. It's reminding people that they matter. Mm-hmm. What made you start doing that? Holding a sign up in traffic, you know, like
attention.
You just wanted the attention of it.
I need people to look at me. No, I mean, I had done a few things in the veteran space. You know, I got out in 2011. You know, after Marja, there was no path where I wasn't leaving my family every few years for the next 20 years. That's reality, and I wasn't willing to do that. And I have no regrets about not doing that. You know, could I have been successful in the Marine Corps? Fuck yeah, I could. I picked up sergeant like literally the first 3 months I was in the IRR or whatever it was. So I had enough steam that I put it in cruise control that I picked up E5 in the infantry. That's crazy rare. And a part of me I tried to even do that for a little bit with the reserves, but I couldn't do it because they made all these rules about tattoos and GI Bill and all that stuff. And if you have all these things, you can't be in the reserves. They've changed all that stuff now, but looking back on it, they were just pushing out a whole generation of guys like me they didn't want anymore. So, you know, I started working with veterans because I started losing my friends to suicide. And it sucked. And I was just like, why? I don't know how close I've been to not being here, but I know I'm no stranger to pain, you know? And, you know, when I was living with my mother-in-law and I couldn't get a job and I had a wife and 2 kids, and I'm so grateful that she took us in, it was hard not to feel like I was failing. And so that's when I started fighting.
As a father, as a husband.
Father, a husband, and I flushed down $30,000 on an enlistment bonus and E5 out of E9 in 4 years. You do the math, that would have made me a commandant by the time I'd hit 20 years, dude. I mean, like, it's just... It was like, if you look at it, you go, really dumb idea, Zach. Because I had found the thing I was good at. Like, and I was really fucking good at it. But it came at such a high cost. It came at my soul. It came at my, you know, my wife wouldn't have left me. I know that for sure. But like, I wouldn't have been the father I am now or had the connection with my daughters I have now. Mm. And so I just started trying to work with veterans and help veterans. And I did that through various organizations like the Mission Continues, the Boot Campaign, Semper Fi Fund, all these different things that tried to like find my connection. And I was able to go to college and get a bachelor's and a master's and continuing to work with that community. But I pulled back when I got my master's and I went into healthcare because that's what you do in Nashville. You either make music or you make healthcare. That's what they say. You know what I mean? And so I didn't want to make music. And so I went into healthcare and I did that. And I always felt like an outside dog inside. And I still am. But I got really bored. And so I do like some writing projects. And I had written, you know, in the Huffington Post and Fox News. And I've got a few things in the New York Times. back when they were doing the At War blogs. I was really proud of that. And, COVID happened in 2020 and, I'm not going to diminish how hard it was on people, but I'm not going to diminish how awesome it was for me and my family. I got to spend no less than 90 days consecutively with my wife and my 2 children, and it was the fucking best. It was awesome. We built a fort downstairs. We hung out every day. It's the longest I've been with any of them. And we bonded in a very big way, the 4 of us, and I'm so grateful for that. And during that time when they were doing their things, we were trying to give them structure for school and stuff because people forget at COVID, the first few weeks were I don't know, just watch TV. Everyone just kind of stayed home. And then we had to help them do online school and figure all that stuff out or go get tested in line here so you can go in a grocery store there and all those weird things. But I just started I kind of want to do something creative again. And I sat in my office. I remember looking at the wall and I was like, oh, what can I do? Maybe I can make a veteran, a better veteran was my idea. Veterans suck. That was where I started. Veterans online really suck. And there's so many connotations that come with it. And I know better than most of them because I don't have a single friend who was in corporate America with an MBA and sleeve tattoos who was going through the legitimate discrimination that I was facing day in, day out. And I'm not trying to downplay that or to say woe is me, but people were asking me what type of medications I take. That's illegal. If I had PTSD and if I had friends that died. This is the way people would interact with me on a regular basis at a healthcare company. And it got to a point where I had to talk to people about it. Hey, y'all can't be talking to me like this. Well, it's because they cared. They didn't care. I don't know why they did it, but they didn't care. And so it just kind of made me feel more and more like it didn't belong. And then you think about veterans online, they're perpetuating stereotypes. I'm well, that's where they get it from. They get it from seeing special forces, all that made up whatever stuff. And I'm well, what if I was delivering a message and you couldn't misinterpret it?
Yeah, it's very direct.
This is what I mean. Ronnie is a babe. Ronnie's a babe. There's no other way to say it. If I write Ronnie is a babe, that Zach thinks Ronnie's a babe. There's no what does he mean by that? Is he talking about the geopolitical implications of, World War I and Ferdinand? No, I'm not talking about random moments in time. I'm talking about this specific moment. I'm okay, well, how would that guy dress? What would he look like? I'm well, he'd probably wear the same thing every day. He'd probably wear a skivvy shirt. I've got a bunch of skivvy shirts. I've always had a bunch of skivvy shirts because I either hate myself too much or I'm just too lame to buy nice gym clothes. So
I'm pretty sure that's what you wore to the gym.
Yeah.
Here in my
dude, I've been doing it since Jesus left Jerusalem. So what it is I got out and had a bunch of them and I had some black shorts. I'm well, that's my gym outfit. Well, there's nothing else I need. That was literally my mindset. Gym outfit, easy. This is also before athleisure and stuff that's in gym culture now. There's nice gym clothes. It used to just be this.
Yeah, you had Under Armour shorts.
That's it.
Yep.
And that was a flex.
Yeah. Oh, you got the Under Armours.
Whoa, brother. Yeah. And now there's actual nice, cool gym clothes that most people don't even wear to the gym.
I remember when champion meant that you were poor, not that you were hip.
Yeah, now it's cool. They've stolen all the culture from us. Carhartt's, selling out of their paper lunch bags. I hate it. I hate the
dog. I got made fun of for wearing Champion stuff.
Champion, Carhartt, all that stuff that everyone made fun of me for. They're wearing it in a non-ironic way in Manhattan, and it makes me insane.
Yep.
But they steal our culture. They steal the culture of the poor whites. I'm did you guys have food stamps too?
That's appropriation is what that is.
It is. I would have loved shoes that weren't, zip tied together in Walmart, but that's what I got. You know what I mean?
My mom worked for the shoe department at Walmart.
Yeah.
I had the dopest Walmart shoes.
Dude, they're great. They just have a limit on them. They're they can only do 40 miles an hour and then they start peeling apart. But but I'm thinking about all this stuff and I'm okay, well he would wear he would wear the skivvy shirt, right? And so I have a bunch of them, so that's easy. So content has to be evergreen. I need to be able to recreate this. Cool, I've got a bunch of them. and every year I get new ones. When the old ones get thin, cool, that'll feed itself. Okay, what else would he do? Well, he'd probably call himself something. Like warfighter. Yeah. Like, that's it. I hate that I'm telling you all this. Hopefully the website crashes.
It's not gonna.
It's not gonna, yeah.
Russia's tried crashing our website before, and so has China, and it has yet to crash.
China couldn't beat them. Some people say Funker's the best. But like, because I started like world building, because like I find like when I'm going to a creative place, like my old lieutenant says veteran with the sign's me, but I go, it's not, it's me turned all the way up, right? It's me turned to 11. And that's how I think about it. Because like realistically, I can't wait to get home to go read the Invincible comic book series that I bought. But most people are like, he's probably just reading about like World War II. Yeah, that's what I'm doing on the plane. But when I get home, I'm going to read the Invincible comics. But like, I have to like get into the space of this is how this guy creates, this is how he interacts with the world. He's this veteran with a sign. Like he's telling you something, and maybe I can do something to the point where I can say something funny or something true. I won't say something that's mean, but I'll say something that's true, right? So it's a very fine line.
Sometimes it's a harsh truth.
It's a harsh truth, but I don't ever want to be like actively degrading towards someone to a way that makes them feel lesser, because I don't like that feeling. Like when people would treat me differently because my dad wasn't around, I that sticks with me, or like, having, a single mother, like all those little things, those are thoughts I have. Like I don't want to attack something that someone can't change and that they can't help. You know what I mean? Because the world has so much of that. I don't need a dog pile on that. I don't need to be another veteran being like, you dirty civilians don't know what it's like. Like those guys fucking suck and no one likes them and their family probably hates them too. That's just reality. And we got to stop that. We need to rein in our culture big time. And that was honestly part of like the idea of this, is that I can elevate the standard of what veterans are in the world and kind of make a tone shift. Because I've seen where it lands in corporate America and it's not fucking great. And keep in mind, I was wearing pocket squares that match my socks that my wife had picked out suits for me. I wasn't showing up there with a bandana and like a shirt that says dysfunctional veteran, don't talk to me. Like I was reformed, refined. Like I didn't make it through business school by accident. I'm not trying to like flex on that. I'm just saying like I was not heavy handed. You barely knew that stuff about me. And I had problems. So your average veteran, which you and I both know what I'm talking about, they're not succeeding. And that's what puts them on the back slope of everything else in their life. And they're not able to be the person that they should to honor their service or the ones that came before them. And so that's what I did. And I saw people posting, like, there was a bunch of stuff online, like a dog with a sign, a CrossFitter with a sign, like all these weird pages. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, well, I'm a veteran with a sign. It's like a very kind of like iconic theme of homeless veterans holding signs. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that's it, done. Veteran with a sign, like locked in. And so I just started writing on cardboard. And the very first sign I posted in March of 2020 was drink water, take Motrin, and change your socks. And the caption says COVID remedy. You know what's funny? It would have worked. It would have worked. It would have worked. It does work. I don't know. Joe, give me a call. Sorry. It is funny to think, but like, it's so funny because I think about like in that moment, the young lady that cut my hair, I told her about this idea and she's like, you should do it. And I was like, well, I need someone to take a photo of me. She goes, I'll take it. And so I stood right outside her place.
Outside the barbershop?
Yeah. Right outside the barbershop. She took it and she goes, this looks great. And I had like a hoodie and a backwards hat and sunglasses. And then I was like, okay, let's just keep going. And then I started to refine it. I started to build it out. Like I looked at different ways to interact with the medium, which was like, I hate the crayon joke because it's just a way for them to make fun of us and call us dumb. Brothers and sisters, stand up for yourself. Don't let this joke continue. But I tried using it to like make crayons to lean into the Marine thing. Mm-hmm. The problem was they don't make like big crayons, so it's hard. It's hard to like, so here's me like, and then I'm like, one time I literally like,
you're not helping the crayon joke.
No, I know I'm not. Just me being like one time I swear to God, I literally poked through the cardboard with like this big crayon, and I was like, man, there might be something to this, like I literally just like tore through it,
No, there is absolutely something to it.
Yeah, no, we're just rock eaters. It's fine. It's just, it was like that. And then I kept making stuff. I made a joke about Tiger King, and I would try to do stuff that was like relevant. And then I started taking suggestions for stuff that I wasn't aware of. Like apparently, if you say going to Ranger school doesn't make you a Ranger, that's a big deal to people in the Army. I'm a Marine. I don't know that. So when someone told me to do that, that was my first like pop, right? Because people are like, ooh, it's internet. Who's this guy? I think brother. Like
my guy.
Yeah, my guy. I literally said in the caption, I have no idea if this is true. Like I wrote that. And then it got shared a lot. And I was like, okay, well, every Marine is not a rifleman. Another one, right? So it starts to pick up steam, but I didn't like it. Does that make sense? I didn't like that that's how it was growing. It was growing a little bit, but like, I didn't like that that's how I was moving up. I didn't really do things to like...
On a meme, basically.
Well, not just that. I didn't want to grow by vitriol. I didn't want to grow...
Sure, I get
by
that.
being, snarky and narcissistic or demeaning. Like I was like, my whole idea was if I can make myself into a meme that everyone can share, eventually I can bring them back to be like, get help.
This is the shift to silent protest.
Yes. Yeah. So this is the shit. So like, I started paying attention more to stuff, and there was like weird things would happen too. There'd be a guy, Ronnie123. I wish I knew the guy's name. I used to know it. Ronnie123. This guy wears the same thing every day. Like, I don't know why he's always dressed the same. Like literally, this was how he spent his time at whatever job or wherever he was commenting on the fact that I was wearing the same thing every day. He couldn't figure out that it was a pattern. And like, I'm going March, April into May. And like, it's got to a point now to where like, I'm done with it. I don't like it. I don't want to interact with it anymore. Like I'm kind of resentful towards it, and I was talking to a friend who was helping me out at the time too. And I was like, I can't, like, the tone is off, right? People weren't getting it. And to be honest, I don't know how the fuck they weren't getting it, because I wrote on cardboard like 8 to 12 words wearing the same thing every day. And Ronnie123 just could not.
He's not picking up what's getting put down.
He's like, this is weird. This guy always like,
wow, that shirt smells really bad, I bet.
Yeah, he didn't have any, like, I didn't even go into the idea that I was taking 4 to 8 pictures at a time or making, none of that. He's like, why is this guy wearing the same thing all the time? But I was like, you know what? I'm going to pause this.
I wonder what his favorite flavor of Crown was.
I don't know. Ronnie123, I miss you. Come back. It'll be funny. It's like if he messaged me, he's like, hey, brother, I'm home. Sorry, it took me forever to realize after 3 months of seeing the same image over and over again that there was a pattern. But, hey, man, that's his journey. But I was like, I don't know. I just need to get into this. I need to figure this out. And I saw Captain Crozier, and I saw the stuff about him getting relieved of his command, because, and this is all true. His ship was full of COVID. Every sailor on there was sick. They had responded to help, and he's like, I need help. And the Navy's like, no, you don't. And he's like, I do. I have a ship full of sick kids. I'm the leader. It's my job to take care of these kids. They go, yeah, technically, but we don't want people to know that you have the COVID. We don't want them to know. We're trying to downplay this whole thing. This is literally what they're doing. It's all trackable. And he goes, well, I've got to do what I have to do. And he leaks all that stuff to CBS because his ship was full of sick sailors and they were suppressing it to downplay how bad it was. And I saw that and I go, that's what you fucking do. That's what being a leader is. No one talks about that. The glory is not from the outside. Like everyone thinks that being a leader gets you like a lot of cool stuff, but the glory comes from the respect of your people that looked up to you and trusted you. And we got to see his glory. Because when he was walking off that fucking ship, that thing was humming. It was vibrating. Captain Crozier. All of them, right? All of them. There's these videos flooding the internet because he did what was right. And it cost him his vessel. It Cost him, that's a base. People don't understand that. To be relieved of a command like that didn't matter. He did what he had to do. That's all you can ask for as a leader, to have the people that you lead look at you with admiration, respect. I mean, I can't imagine how that felt. And I looked at my wife and I go, I got an idea. We take this photo of me? And she goes, yeah, sure. Bring back Captain Crozier. And I'd had some, like I said, I'd had a few things, but I put that up and I was like, I don't want to check on this. I don't feel like messing with this. It was like May 1st, I believe it was, early May. I come back 24, 48 hours later, open up my phone. And when you refresh it on Instagram, it'll tell you how many followers, comments, and likes you have. Well, it maxes out at 100. Mm-hmm. So if you refresh it, I open up my phone, it goes 100, 100, 100. I go, oh, that's crazy. And I open it again, 100, 100, 100. I go, oh, whoa, whoa. I do it again, and it just keeps doing it. My followers, everything shot up. And between like those posts with the Army and the Marine stuff and the Captain Crozier thing, they all stacked on each other because Instagram works like an algorithm. All algorithms work like this. Ronnie likes a thing, it then pushes all the stuff that you like in front of you. So people that interacted with that thing, it reactivated that tidal wave, that archive of content. It pushed them towards people. And then that was it. That was literally it.
I think what I appreciated this so much about it is we're in a time right now where it's oftentimes you'll find too many people, and I'm guilty of this as well, saying or overcomplicating their positions on things to where they are saying, well, you know, I get it, but there's also...
There's two sides to every coin, yeah.
I don't get me going with that. But what made it so profound was its simplicity.
Thank you.
Right.
That's
so
really
there is complexity
really
in the simplicity of that because you're being very direct about the message. Mm-hmm. This is your opinion. It's the foundations of that are yours. That is what you arrive to. You're not necessarily sharing, you know, what elements of information went into arriving at that decision. But you're saying, you know, my name is, I am at the time veteran with a sign.
Yeah.
Your name is Zachary Bell. That's what we're here talking about.
Yeah.
And this is my position.
Yeah.
Right. It was simplified to the point to where people could agree with it or not. And there's elegance in that. Right. There's also elegance in a nuanced position. But I think that was, you know, and we're still in it. There's still an argument to be made for people to just make a position clear. And I think that's what resonated with me on it.
That's really awesome to hear because that was the goal. It is the goal. It is to remove, is conjecture the right word? To remove conjecture?
Yeah.
Or confusion, right? Or even like misinterpretation. Like when I put it in front of you, I want it to be really clear. The only time that doesn't apply is if sometimes I'll make the whole image the sign, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe I'm wearing something specific and the words plus my outfit plus the environment, they create the full story, right? That's the only time it gets outside of the cardboard. Or sometimes when I make a video, they're just like different. That's making a sign wouldn't apply to that, but this is me telling you something or explaining something to you. Like that's been a crazy thing that I've had to learn more about how to do that because I'm not a short form creator. I just made memes. And so I'm like, you know, I started looking at comments on social media pages as like, well, that's actually kind of like a reaction video almost. And like, I could do that and maybe I could provide more context because I've always thought that if Veteran with the Sign is successful, it'll be an entry point for non-veteran military people to come into this world that's not like, you're a dirty fucking civilian. Like, I want them to come into it to learn more about it because ultimately that's what we're missing, right? Is they don't understand us, we don't understand them, and neither one of us is really trying that hard. So maybe I can finesse that conversation into happening so they'll learn more about the issues that veterans and military members face. And so when they're voting or when they're deciding to send troops to war or everything, they'll think twice about it because they've seen the consequences of war, right? Because the hard facts are we always seem to have enough money for war, but never enough to cover the cost, you know? Mm-hmm. And we can always send people everywhere, but afterwards they're like, oh, these veterans cost a lot of money. Yeah, 20 years of war will do that to you. Maybe you should have thought about it. Maybe you should have looked in who owned all of the companies in the world that you were sending over there, who was also the vice president. Maybe those are things you should have looked into, right? That wasn't my job. My job was to trust you and to do what I was assigned to do. But y'all missed all of that stuff. So like, come on, man. And that's the things where I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make it simple and clear and that you can understand it. And you can say, that's an outward expression of me. This reflects how I feel about things. And some of them, you know, they're dumb. Like, I don't know. I had this idea. Like I was talking to somebody and they were telling me how much they love the show Friends. And I just like looked at them and I go, Friends isn't funny. And they go,
It's
yeah,
really not a good show.
They go, yeah, it is. And I go, I was like, let's be clear. I'm not like retro going back on this. I remember being a child being like, so the face melting hot girl is chasing the other guy, but he's like, ooh, leave me alone. Because he likes dinosaurs or whatever. Like that's the whole premise is, you know, Ross never wants to be with Rachel when he's available until the very end. And like, he's being chased by like Aphrodite. And he's like, oh my God, this gets old. And like, none of it's funny. It's just kind of like, bop, bop, bop. And like, I just remember thinking, being like, maybe it's because of how old I was or whatever. I'm sure there's people identify with it, but I don't find it to be a funny show.
Dragon Ball Z was way better.
Dragon Ball Z is incredible. Okay, don't even get me started on that. Like, obviously, you're talking about one of the greatest stories of all time. About Goku, who went Super Saiyan and he changed the world. I have a Vegeta haircut to this day. Don't even get me started, all right? But I made a sign about that. And that was like really controversial to people. I was like, Friends isn't funny. And
so that's kind of where what I was going to say is sometimes that I don't mean the word oversimplification in a negative connotation, but sometimes that simplification can be an affront to people, right? So they'll see that simplification of it, or they'll see the simplicity of the argument and might not agree with it. And I mean, it's not been the smoothest ride. There have been veteran organizations that you've run into a couple problems with, right?
yeah, I'm sorry to be on my phone. I was confirming that Renee Gagnon was
it's all good,
about
bro.
the Iwo Jima thing. It was
This is a very informal podcast.
Well, no, this is what I want to respect your time and effort, and you've let me into your home. Your family's so kind and gracious. Like, truly, this has been a long time coming. I'm sorry I hadn't got here till right now. Like, you're one of the people that I feel is the most meaningful and honest and authentic in this space. And we live in a world of fake followers and, you know, people pretending that there's something they're not. And so it's refreshing to like have a conversation with someone who's not going to, you know, ring this out or hurt other people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love you and I care about you. And I mean that. Like, you're someone who's important to me. So I'm sorry, but I had to confirm that because I have ADHD.
No, I mean, I feel better now knowing that you did confirm that.
No, yeah, he it says he was, this is according to his Wikipedia page, Marine Corps War Memorial, later years in death. Second, he was misidentified as saying he was one of the people that raised the flag. In October 2019, a third Marine Corps investigation concluded that former Marine Harold Keller, not Renee Gagnon, was actually depicted in Rosenthal's photo. So, and the article I'd read was his son was like, I don't know why my dad lied. Like, because he knew his dad knew he didn't do it, but his dad pretended he did. And that's the point of that story, to go back to it, is that if that guy will not tell the truth, everything needs to be viewed through that lens. Sure. That's not to degrade anything about that. That is just reality. That is just reality after multiple investigations with DNA. But speaking of investigations, yeah, the VFW, they fucking hate me. And it's okay because I hate them too, but
it's like a mutual hate thing. So you guys like hate each other like together.
Yeah. So, because I don't know what they do for veterans. I'm trying to be antagonistic about this, but I'm just going to be honest. Okay. So like I said, I've worked with nonprofits since roughly 2011 on. I don't know anyone that the VFW has directly helped, that they have made their life better or has assisted them with anything. I'm talking about from claims benefits to being there as a community. I don't know anyone that applies to. And that is the biggest tell. Like, I've been doing this for a long time, dude. I helped to pass $500,000 with my state representative, Mark Green, Army veteran, who's now my congressman, at Tennessee for the state for mental health for veterans at Legislative Plaza downtown. I literally went around. That was the first time I got in front of people. I was like, my name's Zachary and I'm a veteran. Will you help us? And they signed a thing, and boom, that's how we got a bill signed for that. That happened. I worked with tons of organizations. I don't know anyone that said that. And I think a lot of it's our era of veteran, to really be honest, is that their ability to pull our generation is gone, right? And I've been told forever they do a lot of stuff for us on the hill that's not far from us, you know. But I'm thinking of that Oliver Anthony song right now. You know what I'm saying?
Rich people north of Richmond.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So like I hear they do a lot of stuff, right? But what I've also heard forever is that everyone in DC calls them the complainy hat people, right? That's what staffers call them, complainy hat people.
The staffers call the VFW complainy hat people. Oh, because of their hats.
Yes.
The red hats or whatever, yeah.
So all the stuff that's been pitched at me for this advocacy group and all the stuff they're doing for veterans, I haven't seen it, right? That doesn't mean I can't be educated on something. I'm just telling you, as we sit here right now.
Yeah, you're providing your perspective.
This is my perspective. Someone who's literally worked with veterans, raised hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, been connected to the work I've done with veterans, prior to Veteran with the Sign, all of that. And so like I'm doing Veteran with the Sign for a few years now. This was last year. It was last year. And, you know, by this point, I've got like this management company, and they manage you as well, right? Leviathan?
Yeah.
So what they do is they will help me find brands to partner with me to basically keep the lights on at Veteran with the Sign. And one guy once says it to me, he's like, I guess it costs a lot to run an Instagram page. And I was like, it does, because I don't have a normal job because of it. But whatever. He then apologized to me in a message and was like, I'm sad, and all this other stuff, and that's neither here nor there. But what they do is they'll come to me and they're like, hey, we make content, we work with this organization, we do this, whatever. And, you know, those are things that allow me to continue to do the work of promoting nonprofits, promoting stories like on the After Action podcast. Like, those are the things I'm trying to do, right? Like, if I don't have those partnerships, I don't get to interview Michael Colazzo, who was the cop who stopped the school shooting in Nashville, his first ever interview. Or his second interview he'd ever done when he got the Medal of Valor, the highest award he can get in his profession for stopping that school shooting in Nashville. That's what pays for all that stuff, right? And so they come to me, and they come to a few different creators there, and they're like, the VFW is sponsoring this bill, and what this bill does is it will eliminate for-profit options where veterans pay organizations to help them with their veterans benefits. And it's going to reduce it down to like 3, the DAV, the VFW, and the Legion, and maybe a few others. They'll be the only ones that can help veterans get their benefits outside of state officials. And they want you to support it, and they want you to get the word out about it. And they offered me not a small amount of money to do it. And like, it wasn't just the money that was offered for that. It was like, there's ongoing revenue opportunities. And I looked at it, and I talked to my friends. This is all very documented. You can check out the video from Angry Cops, who talks about it. And, you know, Nick, the fat electrician, they also talked to him too about it. And we all came to agreement that like none of us wanted to do it, right? Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to legislate freedom with the government, and that's communism.
They're trying to literally monopolize
a market.
Yeah,
which is the opposite of freedom. Underneath the guise of, Ronnie, we're here to protect you. Don't you understand? Those companies, they're bad for you. They let you choose what you want to do. You can choose us, or you can choose them. But if you help them, if you choose them, that takes away from their donations, because they say they help veterans do this stuff every day. Now, again, I've been doing this stuff since 2011, and I don't know anyone that's been helped by them. So I talk to them, and I go, I don't want to do that. I'm sorry. And I mean, the amount of money, I'm not gonna lie, it was actually kind of hard. Not hard. It made me pause. Mm-hmm. Because like, you don't do anything for, I've tried not to ever do anything for any financial reason, because I feel like it's chasing a dragon of addiction, because no matter what goal you hit, it won't be enough or whatever. But it made me go, that's a lot of money. Yeah. Like, it made me go, that's a lot of money. That's like not a small amount of money. And I'll say this, it was thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars without getting too specific in it. I was just like, I don't know. And I talked to my wife about it and I was like, I just don't feel comfortable with it. I don't know anyone they've helped or whatever. And I found out about this other bill. This other bill, I think it's called the Plus Act. What they do is they say, hey, these are state veterans service officers. These are other organizations. These are organizations we think are good. You can choose whoever you want to do, but we're going to set up a credentialing thing. And this basically give them a grading system, like a review of like, they do this or that. Because the veteran disability market is huge. It's insane. It's $1 billion enterprise because there's such a huge backlog and so many unfiled claims. There are companies that will take back pay from your claims, and I am not for that. They help you get your benefits, then they take, a percentage of on the back for an extended period of time. I don't know. Each one has an individual contract. I can't verify that. I have no idea how that works. I just know I've heard the pitches and they're horrible. And their whole thing is like, well, you weren't getting the money before. And a lot of people say yes to it.
So you're not going to miss it now.
You're not going to miss it now, right? But it's wrong. They're taking money from people who've earned it, right? And so I looked around and I found this company, Remedical, and they're like, hey, we don't do that. Here's how it works. You come to us. You say, hey, my name's Ronnie. Here's what I need. And depending on what you need, where you are in your veterans claim process, it can be, I think the max I've heard is like $3,000, right? And they say, that's how much we're going to charge you. That is what we will charge you for the services you need. They help you to gather all the evidence and medical documentation that you need to file your claims. They don't file it for you. They help you do it. That's what happens, right? Because the majority of claims that are kicked back have unsubstantiated claims, meaning they lack proper medical documentation, right? Because people are like, oh, you're just lying to them. It doesn't work like that. That's not how it works. You can't just trick a doctor into lying for you. Because it's not just a statement, it's provided with x-rays and medical documentation. Like there's multiple layers involved. So like the idea that there's companies out there who are risking medical fraud to go into jail forever just to help veterans is insane, right? But they are providing a service, right? It was started by a guy who used to work at the VA and he's like, I can do this better, quicker, and faster. Okay, cool. And, there's also been opinions of like, well, they're outside officials from the VA. How does that make you feel? Well, when I think about it, it's kind of weird that they rely on doctors within the VA to give opinions on VA stuff. Wouldn't you say that there is a potential for bias? Right? Like, couldn't that be not as good as outside officials? Like a third party removed individual has nothing to gain from it? I don't like the idea of like you're playing with house money. Like it doesn't feel great.
Yeah, it's like we're investigating ourselves kind of deal.
Yeah, we found out we're pretty fucking cool. So like, that's kind of how it feels to me. But they came to me and I was like, you know what? I like this. Let's partner together. And they're the sponsor of the After Action podcast. And so I started working with them and I started helping them develop content and all sorts of stuff, getting the word out about their services. I do like 2 or 3 posts for them. No big deal. And then one morning I wake up and I see some guy with like a VFW hat. I'm trying not to be degrading to him, but like it's literally my worst nightmare pretending to be me online. And he's not Ronnie the Babe, to say the least. Like it would have been awesome if it was like a jacked guy with a show on the History Channel pretending to be me. That would be awesome. It was not that. And like, the worst thing about it is he's fucking lying about me. He's fucking lying about me. He says, stop taking from veterans. Right? And he's like, stop taking from veterans. Because he says the company I'm working with is taking back pay. He's like, we have hundreds of evidence of claims and all this stuff that you're taking back pay. And I'm like, what do you mean? And as I'm trying to engage with him. And he goes, well, blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, the company you work with puts people on a payment plan. I go, my brother in Christ, I know your brain's cooked from working in the swamp of DC for a long time, but that's not back pay. A payment plan means you didn't pay it all at once. You develop a plan to pay them off.
It means it makes it palatable for people that can't afford the service out of their pocket outright.
Which is completely, and they provide options, right? It's not like out of nowhere. So like that was their sticking, that was how they were trying to attack, is that, payment plans were back pay, right? And I don't know who came up with that. I do. His name's Ryan Gallucci. He works at the DC office, and this was mainly his campaign against me. This is all very documented online. You can cut his name, but it's in Rich's video.
No, I'm not going to cut his name.
Okay, yeah. And I remember I sat for like a little bit, and my wife was like, what are we going to do? And I was like, we're going to wait. We're going to figure this out. But I remember I shot a tweet out and I go, are you sure you guys want to do this? Like, we don't have to do this. We can stop right now. We can stop right now. And then I started getting some flack from Blackhawk 30 because their main sponsor was the VFW and they were pushing this. And Blackhawk 30 does no longer exist. And I'm still very good friends with Captain Cons. I just did their podcast, the Bold American podcast with Drunk Old Grad and Ryan Mannion from Travis Mannion Foundation. Everything's good. He's apologized, everything else. The stuff they were being told wasn't true too. Like, everyone was being pushed this narrative that like Zach's promoting a company that takes back pay from veterans, mainly because motherfuckers didn't understand what a payment plan was. Like, that was the main thing. And honestly, they thought that they were bigger than me, smarter than me, and that they could do this. And so that's what I really want people to take away from this. Before I continue the story, take this one fucking thing away from this. They did this to me, right? At that time, on a slow day, I can still reach 500,000 people on my own like that. What will they do to you? What will they do to you? Not a fucking thing. They won't even think twice about you. Remember that. I'm sorry. Like, I think about that a lot. Like, they wanted to swing at me. Like, and I'm not saying I'm anybody, but like, I have enough like assets, tools, and
you have
this.
You
I
have friends.
Now, I haven't even got to that yet, but just on my own, right? Just
Sure.
on my own, I can do that. What would they do to normal people who are trying to get benefits, trying to get health care, trying to provide for their family, trying to figure out ways to take care of themselves? Nothing. They don't give a fuck. They don't. Because when push came to shove, they're willing to push me down to make my body and blood and my bones into mortar for a bill that will only restrict veterans' benefits even more. Which basically means their goal is to not fix anything. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, they wanted to subdue the free market, and
Yes.
that's not how it works.
It's not how it works. And so I put out that tweet, and to be honest, dude, I was like, this is gonna fucking suck if a bunch of boomers like show up out of nowhere, lie about their fucking service, and like do this to me. Like, I was so mad. And I took a step, and the fat electrician's wife put together a meme, and then unsub. I had just done unsub, right? I had just done it. And out of the woodwork, these monsters started showing up. And then you started showing up. All my friends just started showing up. But like, it was not even a question on the table. It was like, we're fighting the VFW. And this groundswell of people came towards them like a tidal wave. Nick described it this way. He said they have no idea the autistic tidal wave they've started. Like, it was just people, just like literally to this day, I'm their most popular post on every platform. Yeah. Like, I literally just then apologize to veterans, apologize, nothing, right? And all the while, their DC office is DMing me. I have all the screenshots. Come at me. They're DMing me saying, we don't know what's happening. We're so sorry. They're trying to say that like people have told us I'm getting threats. They're trying to find anything they can. Ryan Gallucci is trying to find anything he can to retract from the fact that they fucked up. All because I didn't want to do their fucking marketing deal. All because no one wanted to promote their thing, which by the way has not gone forward anywhere because it's a horrible concept.
Yeah, because it's dog shit.
It's dog shit. And that's what they're spending donor dollars on to this day, to fund a bill to restrict access to benefits. That is what it is as its core. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the way I perceive it.
That's my understanding of the bill as well. And
Right?
I work for a nonprofit, so I know how this process works.
I'm about to crack a tooth. I'm excited. I'm a little heated. I'm sorry. I haven't really talked about this like this. I mean, it's almost a year to the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do find it interesting to look back on it a year later because I can remember this, and I got to be honest. The veteran, I hate the word influence. The veteran creator community came out of the absolute woodwork on this.
Yeah.
Because
no one was more blown back by it than me.
Well, once you looked under the hood at what was happening, it was like, no. This is not how this is going to work. It might have been that once upon a time, these government adjacent organizations could get to dictate what happened to us, for us, and in their mind on our behalf. But what they were quite literally trying to do is monopolize and shut down options that should be available. And to be frank and quite honest, if a veteran goes to one of these companies that's out there and they end up getting burned by that, frankly, that's the free market.
That's freedom.
That's
the downside of that. That's the downside of freedom, but it's still their right to fucking choose.
right.
And they're trying to take that away. To this day, that's what they're trying to do. They've developed a website called vsafe.gov where you can go onto this website. They've worked and partnered with the VA and report bad companies or bad people that are doing this work. So in addition to a bill that doesn't seem to be going anywhere, they've dumped probably millions of dollars into a website to, again, restrict veterans' access to benefits. That's what they're investing time in. That's what they're doing. So when people ask me how I feel about the VFW, I want to gut it. I could literally do life-changing shit with the amount of money that they're given every year.
As far as the reporting the bad companies doing it, I'm cool with that. I gotta be honest. But who decide?
That's my problem. Who decides?
Right.
They're
who
the
decides?
But they're the ones that are deciding. They were saying I was bad. How do they not say Funker530 is bad? How do they not say unsubscribe?
Everybody says Funker530 is bad, but that's okay. I'll go toe to toe with them anytime.
But it's the same thing as like using a VA doctor to get VA claims.
Yep.
It feels like the incentive's built into itself. So like you're fighting this system all the time, and like I'll be honest, it broke my heart. It like at the end of the day, it broke my heart. And I was in communication with, Ryan and his office were trying to pretend like they didn't have anything involvement with it. They were friends. It was just a lighthearted joke. Anything to not admit fault.
I do remember them trying to walk it back at one time, and I think that's when I ended up stepping in. And so I was like, no, hold on a second, bro.
Yeah.
No.
Well, we didn't ruin this guy's life. Oh, what a bummer.
No, we missed our shot.
Yeah. So I ended up talking to I had 2 phone calls with the head of the VFW, the president at the time. I believe his name is Dwayne something. He called me and he's like, hey, how's it going? It's nice to meet you. We're both veterans. He's like very New York kind of guy. And he's like, I was in the Border Patrol for a long time. And this was right after Rich had dropped his video and just dog walked them up and down the internet. I remember I never forget. He goes, well, your friend, the cops, the angry cops, boy, he really put it on us. And I go, well, he just told you what happened. He goes, yeah, I guess that's true. Like he just, even in that moment, his first reaction was like, you guys are being mean to us. Not, we said what had happened. And so at that time, he was like on a tour, checking out the VFWs in like Asia and like Vietnam. I didn't even know these existed. He told me this over the phone. And then when he got back, we were going to talk. And then he texted me a few times and he was going to set up a meeting for me to come up to the DC office and we could figure this out. And so me and Nick and Rich had actually decided that we were going to do it because at that point, it was over. And our position was, maybe we can fix this. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can help people. Maybe we can find a way to fix this. And that was like on a Wednesday. By a Friday, they had a new president of the VFW, and that was the end of it. I don't know. Maybe his term had come to an end. Maybe that was whatever.
Maybe there was a catalyst.
I don't know anything. All I know is that he's like, I'm going to talk to you. We're going to figure it out. He had this really thick accent. And he's like, we're going to figure it out. And to be honest, like, it's the main reason Veteran with a Sign isn't a nonprofit. Like, I can do whatever I want. I don't need a board. I don't need people telling me what to do. Right. That's why God gave me my wife. Like, she's the accountability I need. But, I've always been told they do a lot of stuff. I would just love someone to show them to me. Because ultimately, it's all of us against all of them. And when I was in the middle of this, I was like, dude, this is why people fucking hate veterans. This is exactly why. Because on the outside, it looks petulant and petty and gross. Because it is. It is. But when you look at it, you look at like the core ideas of what was happening, what was going on. Their goal was to restrict veterans' benefits underneath the guise of protecting them. And until you put me in the earth, I'm not going to allow that to happen. Till the good Lord calls me home, I will go out banging that drum. Because the number one reason people don't get the help they need is because they don't have the benefits properly set. And then that puts them in a position where they're never going to get the help they need, mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever. How are they ever going to recover? How are they ever going to be better?
Right.
You know, I don't care if every veteran from here to Kingdom Come has 150,000% veteran rating. I don't care. Because maybe when that happens, maybe someone will go, whoa, we've really messed up a whole generation. We should probably stop sending troops everywhere for no reason without a plan. We should probably think about this stuff, about the long-term effects of war, what this has on that individual and their family and so forth and so on.
Sure. But all of this led into after action.
Yeah, after action, yeah. I mean, I'm white. I'm in my 30s. I got to start a podcast.
You got to start a podcast. Do you also cook barbecue?
Yeah, I have a Traeger. Yeah, I mean, but that's here's the.
I was gonna make pulled pork.
Yeah, I can't wait, dude. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I couldn't help it, and I got a Traeger from my friend Tim Montana. Like, so shout out to Tim Montana. Check him out. He's a great artist. But been a good friend for a long time. I didn't think I was a grill guy until it showed up. And I can set it on my phone. Bro, I'm all in. Like,
it's so good.
It's so good. My backyard's getting fixed right now. And I've got a deck area that's being made just for my grill. Like, I'm not messing around,
so
dude.
it's war history, podcasts, and smoked meat.
Yeah, I've got a headset on. I got a TV on. I'm doing all of it.
You're listening to hardcore history while you're smoking meat and prepping your next own podcast.
Yeah, and then, probably watching Shane Gillis on the other side. Like, I'm doing all of it. But, Veteran with the Sign is like, it's like, hey, look at me. Let's talk, right? And I started to notice that, especially when I started doing videos, because the reach changed with that, or they're much more subjective a video is as opposed to like a digital sign. There's more conversation there. And I was like, I'm not able to like flesh out these ideas. Like I'm limited. This is not a good medium and comment to comment. It just doesn't work. And like, I feel like there's more meat on this bone of like conversations I want to have and like really have like hardcore discussions as much as people will let me. Much people are able to share to me, like individuals like you, the Fat Electrician, Angry Cops, Michael Colazzo, Tyler Vargas Andrews, King Picks Media, like these people that are really important to me, all of you. And I'm, the cool stuff about you is the stuff that no one knows. And like, those are the things I wanted to talk about. And I just, I started thinking about the idea, and then, Reed Medical was really happy with all the press they got.
No, I'm sure.
Yeah. So they were like, what else are you up to, buddy? I was like, I'm white, I'm 30, and I want to start
a podcast unless you want to sponsor my barbecue circuit.
Barbecue's still on the table. That's a Q3 item we're looking at. But no, they were like, they understood that, like, for whatever reason, I've been put in a position where people trust me, right? And I do understand that. I'm very, very grateful for it. And I might be wrong about a lot of stuff, but I'll never lie to you, and that's the truth.
Yep.
So like, even then I was like nervous the whole time. I was like, did I mess up the Rene Gagnon story? And I did. I said his name wrong. His name's Rene, not Ray. And I didn't want any of that. But that's the kind of constant anxiety that I live with. And so like, I was like, I want to start a podcast. I want to call it After Action. And I want it to be a place where people are able to talk and tell a story they've never told before and interact with the world a way they've never done before. And my first guest was Michael Colazzo, who stopped a school shooting in Nashville. Him and Rex stopped that school shooting. And I can't watch anything I make, as you know.
Sure.
I'm just so proud that, like, Mike's a big part of my life. Mike's a big part of my life. And I never saw that coming. I never saw that coming. And I met him through my producer, Blas Hernandez. Blas had helped start a podcast called Bussin' with the Boys, and he's a cop, and he wanted to do some other stuff. And then we met like a month before all that happened. And he's like, hey, I think I can connect you to him. And I was like, can you connect me to him? It's a hard thing he's going through. I want to be there for him as a brother and a Marine. And I called him. I'll never forget. He was at what's the wing? He was at Wingstop. He's like, I'm at Wingstop getting some wings. And we talked for an hour and a half, and he goes, hey man, I know who you are. I've been following you. Have you been following me? He goes, yeah, dude. You have no idea how much I appreciate what you do for us. And that stuck with me. And we've just, we've been together ever since. And you met him. He's Mike. Yeah. He's funny. Like he's just
he's fun.
He's hilarious. And it was his idea initially. He's like, I want to do your podcast. And I was like, no. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never known. That's my superpower. But he's like, I want to do it. And because he had people approach him, and I'm not going to name them to avoid litigation, but other people had approached him because they wanted to really ring out that event. Mm-hmm. And he's like, what do you think? And I'm like, what do you think? And he's like, I don't want to do it. And I was like, well, that's all you need to know. You don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. And he's like, yeah, but like, I'm like, if you don't feel comfortable doing it, you feel like they're going to twist your story, I wouldn't do it. That's it. He goes, okay, I'm not doing it. And he's like, let's do it on yours. And I'm like, I'll do the best I can. But I mean, my memory of it was that he was as honest as he was able to be in that moment. And I tried to help him get to that place. And no matter what happens, I'm just honored that I was able to share that space with him and to be there and have that conversation with him. Production-wise, there's tons of things I wanted to change, but that's just the reality of being a creator. But like, if nothing ever else happens with After Action, I'm just really proud that someone who's a really good friend of mine was able to talk about that, in a way that isn't objectifying or that hurt the whole town, you know? And I just keep trying to find a way to tell stories like that. Whatever people's stories are.
Providing, so that resonates a lot with me because providing people the opportunity, some might laugh at the way that I put this, but there's a reason that I will, a safe space.
Yeah.
So I don't mean that in the traditional connotation, but I mean providing someone the opportunity to really convey themselves without understanding. We have a habit as a society right now of holding people to a standard, a standard of truth. Mm-hmm. Watching you be concerned about Renee versus Ray is a result of that standard, and it's something I speak about very much. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned something earlier, and I'm going to get back to Colazzo here in a second. But we have this habit of holding people to this standard that if you say Ray instead of Renee, you're dog shit. You don't matter. You didn't know. You're not being truthful. You're lying.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to the type of commentary that the After Action podcast provides, this is more about your truth and Colazzo's truth than it is about some historical textbook. It's the person underneath of what was on the television. It's the person underneath of the sign. And that's, I think, what I enjoy so much. I tell people a lot that I'm not a news anchor. I'm not here to give you your unbiased, unobjective perspective on things that are happening.
Good, because there's no such thing right now.
Insert
meme of all of them repeating the same thing.
This is a threat to our democracy.
Fair and balanced.
Well, bias, everybody is biased.
Yeah.
It is impossible to not be because a bias is a predisposition. What you can be is objective when it comes to reporting on events and things like that. You can still have a bias, but if you're being objective about your analysis of it, about how you're conveying the information, that can still be possible. But I want bias when I want to know about a person, right? I want to know what makes them tick, what makes them who they are, what made Colazzo push into that building that way. I want his bias, right?
And he was the first person in the building. And most people don't know that.
Right.
By himself. He was the first person to show up on scene. He walked through the building, bullet holes, glass broken. He walks into the vestibule. It doesn't, that part of the structure no longer exists. and with reckless abandon. He was 15 minutes away from where the police station was, where he got there, and Tango was down in 13. That's how fast he was driving. I burned up the engine on his undercover because he's an undercover detective, like literally known for like doing crazy cases. And he walked in there by himself into hell.
Yeah. Yeah. And, there are all kinds of podcasts that are about, being the next news story or being, those are great for what they are. I'm not watching After Action for that. I'm watching it for the objectivity or the bias of that person, because I want to know what that person is. I want to know what built them into what they are. I want to know the foundations of their bias, because I know their bias. I know that his bias is that he pushed through a building and shot somebody in the face that was killing children, and I'm way into that bias.
Yeah.
So let me just be frank about that.
Yeah.
So I think After Action is an excellent extension of that silent protest, because you have really the two sides of the coin, right?
Yeah.
You have the simplicity of your position. And then if people want to know a little bit more nuance about the people and topics and subjects that you're covering, that's what After Action's there for.
Well, yeah, that's what I want it to be. Like, another great story is the fat electrician, Nick. Like, he started all that out of kind of necessity. So he was a journeyman electrician, National Guard, has a wife and 2 kids, and gets hurt and then he doesn't have a really solid plan. He's like on short-term disability basically, and starts doing DoorDash to provide for his family, while also like he made a video about Aldi on TikTok and just did it while also doing that. And so like on paper, you're like, how is this going to work? What's going to happen? And then people started watching it. They started watching it, and he's like, okay, I set up a beer fund. Check it out. People bought him a bunch of beers. They donated to him. And then he's like, okay, what do I do next? And then he's built it into something else. So like people oftentimes like discredit the reality of like what that looks like. But like they forget that when he was not sure what he was going to do, injured with a torn arm, he's still working, at least 12-hour days to provide for his family. And like everyone's like, oh, it's just because he made videos. Like that stuff's not interesting to me. The videos are whatever. What's the person who's delivering food late at night to provide for his family? Because that's who gives a shit. We gotta do it. Gotta do the work. That's the stuff that's important.
Those stories are what tie it all together for me.
Yeah.
I'm a history guy.
Yeah.
I have not watched a single one of his videos that I don't enjoy. But the episode, getting to learn about him, ties all of that together, right? Like I don't want him to break news to me. I want to know about him, and I think that is what differentiates After Action.
That's what I like to try and think I'm doing.
Well, I think it works.
Hell yeah, I'll take it. I'll take one of these too.
No, you can't have that one. That's the only one I have.
Okay, fine. Maybe a copy then.
We'll make a copy of it.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
We could talk about that offline if you want.
Perfect. Yeah, he wasn't in that shot. Well, you can cut it.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's unclassified. So the way it works is when you're drafting leaflets, they are classified.
Yeah.
But then as soon as you drop it, it's paper in the wind.
Oh yeah, I've seen leaflets. I've seen your work.
So
I never even told you a PSYOP story. Can I tell you a PSYOP story?
I absolutely want to hear it. I'm not a PSYOPer. I'm an IO guy. There's a difference.
Whatever, Luhan. Here's the thing.
I think I'm way prettier, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah. 10 out of 10, I would cut you from the herd. I'd take you for a spin. All right. So we were in Marja, and we were pushing that security ring, and a bunch of these like PSYOP guys show up. And they're like, hey, we need to go out and plant some antennas, and this is all tell me if it's classified. I don't know. They said we're just going to drop some antennas, play a radio broadcast signal because these people can't read. So it was dangerously low literacy rate in Afghanistan, especially in that area.
Oh, you weren't talking about the Marines.
I hate that was such a good joke. Anyways, so
I gotta pee real bad.
No, I'll finish this and we can go. But like, so we do the thing and like we go out and plant the stuff. The guy like trips and falls because he doesn't really know what he's doing. It's whatever. And we get back and we're in the COC and he's going, fuck. And I was like, what's wrong? And he goes, something happened. He goes, the mix is bad. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, listen. And it was Desert Rose by singing. He goes, I dream of rain, LA. The Americans are your friend. Desert Rose, the Americans are here to help. So like the subliminal message was too high up in the mix. So I was like, yeah, it's not going to work. I was like, also, it's in English. The guy was like, fuck. Like, and so like it was all for nothing. But yeah, that's my PSYOP story. So, yeah.
Brother, thank you for coming all the way out to my home. I hope you had a good time while we were out here. We're gonna cook some steaks on my smoker.
Yes, let's do it.
I love you, buddy.
I love you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, man.
Pleasure.